I will go ahead and begin this meeting. This is December 7th, 2023. This is the regularly scheduled city council meeting for the city of Glenwood Springs. City clerk, will you please take roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Wusso.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dame.
Here.
Councilor Schachter.
Present.
Councilor Kaup.
Here.
Councilor Weimer.
Here.
Councilor Zelinski. Councilor Godis. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have item number 5, agenda changes and conflicts. I am actually going to make this agenda change. I'm going to remove item number 18, which is update on case number 23CV 030160. Currently, that case has a gag order, and so we are limited on what we can say. And until future date, which I think will be around December 13th, we will not be commenting to honor the judge and the current order. So any other changes? Okay, we'll move on. Council announcements. Anybody have any council announcements? Any up? Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Dem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, I want to take a minute and thank all our commissioners on every commission we have. A year has passed and everybody has shown up and done what they could to shape the future of Glenwood Springs. Thank you to all of you. Also, if you are up for reappointment, if you're not term limited, please apply. We need you to stay on if you would, for continuity and to help us out with what we do here. So thanks again, and applications are on the website as far as I know. Thank you.
Councilor Godis.
Yeah, I sent this out to Steve and Brianna, Angie Anderson, and I BCC'd you all. There's a mountain community survey that it's we would like everybody to try to take as much as possible. This is mountain community, so it's a partnership with CAST and Northwest COG. So I would really encourage you. Everybody has the survey in their email. If we can get that out to boards, commissions, the chamber, community groups, any groups that we're part in, Rotary, service clubs, Lions, the more people that we can have take this survey, the more Glenwood Springs residents will be represented in this outcomes, and things will be used with those outcomes that will impact Glenwood Springs. So if we could do that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
Thank you. Just an update on chat with council. Councilor Weimer and I will be having a chat with council this Sunday, December 17th, 2 to 4 p.m. at Michoacana, which is out in South London.
And I was pleased to see that the primary language of that council chat will be Spanish with English.
There will be
translation
English
available.
interpretation for my sake.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for that inclusionary, like that action. So I'm going to very excitedly announce that we have filled the IT director position, which is something that we have been working on for a very long time. Nick Giglio? Thank you. Yay. Yeah, welcome, Nick. We're really happy to have you in the organization. Thank you.
Hey, Nick, I can't print when you get a chance.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm going to now open the comments up to citizens appearing before council. As a reminder, this is for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you are here for anything regarding an addition, like an item later in the agenda, if you can hold off, there'll be an opportunity to speak then. This is for items not on the agenda. So anybody who would like to come forward, it sounds like there was a few. Come on up. You'll have 3 minutes. I need your name. If you live in city limits, please watch the timer. I hate to interrupt people, but I will stop you at 3 minutes. Thank you.
Got to squeeze in 3 different items in that 3 minutes that you're allowed. Don Gillespie, Glenwood Springs. I'm asking that council hold off on any new or present projects involving city-owned property developed until this petition plays out, which would be in about 4 months, it'd be much appreciated if you don't try to grandfather anything in before that vote comes about. The other item is this is on the DDA and this new overlay. And I'm only going by what I've read in the paper and what I hear on the street. But the city seems to have come up with some kind of a list that they're going to try to impose on building owners that they think that the retail should be in their buildings. To me, the only thing that should point out what should be in a building is what the market creates or what the market demands. I can't imagine this is making very many building owners or citizens happy that you're imposing these rules and instructions on how they're to run their buildings. Third item dovetails into Mr. Dean's comment, congratulating the commissions. I don't know when you guys stopped. We used to have at the first of each council meeting, each councilman gave a report on their commission, what they did in the last 2 or 3 weeks. This only helps convey to the citizens what's going on, helps to eliminate this doubt things are being done. QT, the public's not hearing about it. So I don't know why y'all stopped it, but it was always information that people wanted to hear of which, you know, what are the commissions doing and what's out there. I think that's all that's on my list.
Thanks for bringing those things to our attention. We appreciate it. Anyone else here for 3 minutes? Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Tracy Turner. I am a citizen of Glenwood Springs. I am here in regards to the new trash pay as you go.
Pay as you throw. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Pay as you throw. I do have to say that that will save many of the people I've talked to hundreds of dollars a year, which is incredible for them.
Yeah.
I also would like to say that I've been looking into the opt-out program, which continues to charge those who opt out a minimum of $10.88 a month. So as a citizen that does not need this program, I will be paying over $120 a year for a program that I am not receiving services from. So I've been informed from legal attorneys and such, and I've done research that you cannot be charged for goods and services that you do not receive. So I just want to put that out there for you guys to look at. It sounds like you guys, this might be something you're looking at next week. When I called the office and chatted with, trying to remember her name, but she was great. And she was like, well, you have to pay even if you opt out. I was like, oh, that's interesting that you have an opt-out program, but you still have to pay. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention when it's referred back to and you guys look at that again. Oh, we have this opt-out. I know Picken County does it. They don't charge if you opt out. So I wouldn't want to see anybody else. I have heard from quite a few people that are up in arms. And I am a rallier. I work with the 5 and under crowd. I can get a group of people out here, but appreciate your time. Happy holidays. And I'm glad to see childcare is on your agenda tonight.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good night. Lori Chase, come on up.
Thank you, Ingrid. My name is Lori Chase. I live at 705 Cowden Drive. And first I want to thank Steve Boyd for finally getting the trash sorted out at my house. And I finally am on a regular pickup schedule. Yay. But what I'm really here tonight for is to speak about the seemingly uncontrolled growth in our town. And I realize that we do have a bill that was passed, House Bill 23-1255, that says that there shall be no more building moratoriums, more or less. And it's saying that they're trying to bring the housing prices down. It won't work. You have too many greedy developers. But anyway, I wanted to say that in the body of that bill, it does state that says that governmental entity that experiences one or more of these events may implement a growth cap for up to 24 months in a 5-year period. What they're referring to is public infrastructure, public services, and water resources. The CISA refers to critical infrastructure in part as being food and agriculture industries. That is our grocery stores. We have one major grocery store, and then we have, Whole Food, or not Whole Foods, but
Natural grocers.
thank you, natural grocers. I always want to call it something else, but Vitamin Cottage,
I
that's
think
it.
that, yeah, they
So
changed it
anyway,
last, yeah.
And they do a fair job, but at the rate that we're growing, it's totally insufficient, and people are facing crowds at City Market. You know all this stuff, but we qualify for that, I believe, because our infrastructure is lacking in that department. So what I'm proposing is that we get a few of the city council people, along with a couple of citizens of this town, and go to see Governor Polis and tell him what this is happening in our town. You can't make a blanket moratorium across a whole state without considering individual communities. And I feel like we really need to consider this community. And holidays, and thanks for listening.
Happy holidays as well. Anyone else here this evening that wants 3 minutes to visit with us for items that are not on the public, this evening's agenda? Okay, with that, I'm going to close the portion of the public comments, and I'm going to bring it back to council for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Counselor Dunn,
I so move.
do I have a second? Counselor Zelinski. Go ahead and say that. I second. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? The motion to approve the consent agenda passes unanimously, and we will move on to our actions and or presentations. The first item this evening is item number 9, a childcare facility being considered in the West Glenwood Springs Mall. Hi.
So I'm going to start us off. My name is Annette Bronta. I am the Chief Financial Officer at Mountain Family Health Centers, and also serving as the interim CEO currently. And I am here as a partner with the Early Childhood Education Foundation. And we were approached by the owner of this organization for this opportunity to bring $800,000 into our community to help support the build out of a childcare center. And we researched this. We spent some time visiting with Jennifer, and she brought her expertise to the table in operating and being a successful childcare center operator, owner and operator. And in partnership with us, we're able to apply for these funds from the state, receive some matching funds as well. And the board agreed to it in line with our strategic plan of being the an employer of choice. We have 200 employees in the Pitkin, Garfield, and Eagle counties. And so this is a strong recruitment and retention tool for us to be able to offer these additional childcare spots to our employees. Over.
Thank you, Council, for allowing us to present to you this evening. I'm Jeff Peterson with Iron Mountain Engineering, representing the Glenwood Springs Mall. Want to just start and speak as a community. We are grateful, lacking in childcare, and as a parent, former board member with our school, certainly recognize the need within the community. So when this opportunity came up, working with Mountain Family and Jennifer to potentially locate a childcare facility within the Glenwood Springs Mall. Seemed like a great fit and was really excited to start partnering with them and developing conceptual plans, looking at costing. We went and visited Jennifer's facility down in Grand Junction and was very impressed with the new facility she's developed. What we found, and our initial scope was to develop 7 classrooms with 10 students per classroom, so a total of 70 students. But as we did further research and worked through the numbers and costing, it became apparent that building this facility, even with the $800,000 worth of grant funding and what the mall can contribute to this, is very expensive within this community and may not be isn't financially viable without a little additional assistance. And so we've pared that back to 4 classrooms and 10 spots as an initial offering, with the opportunity to expand that in the future, either additional funding or grants that Jennifer may be able to achieve once the facility is operational. One constraint within the grant funding is that the facility has to be opened no later than September of 2024. And so time is of the essence of moving this forward. To not restrict or eliminate the potential of this moving forward, even though we're on a critical path, we've continued to develop the demolition plan and are doing exploratory demolition at this point and moving forward with demolition when required to start clearing that space. But we really do need to keep expeditiously moving plan development forward so that we can get in front of the planning department, gain approval, and construct this. But happy to answer further questions after Jennifer speaks a little bit about her facility. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you again for allowing us to present this evening. My name is Jennifer Knott, and I am a early childhood education childcare center owner and operator. I currently have 2 active large childcare centers. One's located in Rifle, here in Kids Preschool, and then another one that just opened in September called Adventure Academy on the campus of Community Hospital, and that is an employer-based center. This year, we were very fortunate to receive a lot of grant funding from the state of Colorado to support childcare. It's no secret that America is in a childcare crisis, and the western slope of Colorado is considered a childcare desert. So with those fundings from the state, we were able to secure $800,000. We did receive some matching funds, as Annette spoke to as well. But with the building cost here in Glenwood Springs, it's just not quite enough to get us where we need to be. So we're here tonight to kind of talk through the need as well as the opportunity that's in front of us. We have a solution in front of us and really want to push this forward and take advantage of the funds that we have. So this kind of talks a little bit about the crisis that we're seeing in childcare. Families are struggling to find high quality, affordable care as childcare centers are in our area are operating at full capacity with extensive wait lists. We have Kelly Esch here as well, and she's the executive director of the Early Childhood Network, and so she can speak to just the crazy need that we have. It's not even quantitative. We were speaking with her a little bit ago, and there are 3 infant spots for childcare in our community, and that's at our school. She met with a family that had their child on the wait list for their first child. That child then turned 4, never got a spot, and then they gave birth to their second child who was able to fill that spot. So we're talking about 4+ years on a wait list for childcare. So this solution that we have initially would offer 4 classrooms. We would target infant and toddler care as that's what we see as the greatest need. With universal preschool that came into our state, we're fortunate enough to have that support with the preschool age kiddos, but we're missing that huge gap of infant and toddler care. The result is that families have to wait to plan to have children, or they are not able to return to work after maternity and maternity leave, or have to extend that. And that has a direct impact on our local businesses and a huge economic impact on our community. So I am the executive director of Access for Education Foundation, and our mission is to build new childcare centers and meet this growing need and be a solution to this problem. So as we mentioned, we secured $800,000. And so that 100% of that is going to fund this project in Glenwood Springs Mall, which we identified as an area of opportunity for us. It has direct access where we won't have families or kids parking on a major street. It has parking, it's safe, it's secure. It has an opportunity for us to grow into 7 classrooms, potentially 9 classrooms. It is what our area needs and would be a huge benefit to the Glenwood Springs Mall, as we've all known, needs opportunities like this to help it succeed as well. We are still needing to complete this project. We need additional funds. And we'll talk a little bit about what the ask is going to be tonight and what that need is. In return, we would be able to have the capacity to offer slots and to be creative about how this can benefit the city of Glenwood Springs, the employees of the city, other first responders in the area and its essential employees. So we have the ability to prioritize slots to meet the needs of the city of Glenwood Springs. So the ask tonight is one of the things that kind of pigeonholes private organizations like the mall is the amount of that we see. If we were a public organization like a public school or public center, government organization, we would not be required to pay the permitting fees for a center like this. We are operating as a nonprofit and we are seeking the approval tonight to have our permitting fees waived, as it would be equivalent to another organization that would open a similar type of facility. We are also seeking $150,000 in financial contribution from the city of Glenwood Springs to get us to our finish line. We're right there, shovel ready, ground broken. We want to make this project happen, and we're so close financially. And this is kind of that last hurdle that we need to jump over, is that a small portion to fund this project. So tonight I ask the board to approve the permit fee waiver for our center, as well as $150,000 in financial contribution.
Is there anybody else from your organization that wants to talk prior to, we'll probably pop it back here, we'll ask questions, we'll go from there. Is there anybody else that you've brought with you this evening that would like to talk?
The only individual present would be Kelly Esch to speak to the need and what she sees as a professional in early childhood education.
Great, let's have her go ahead and then we'll jump back to council and ask questions to you. So you can stay up there for a minute. I anticipate we'll have questions for you.
I'll be quick.
I am Kelly Esch. I'm with Early Childhood Network. We are a coaching and referral agency for Garfield County. And as stated, since Councilman Godis was there, have not increased infant spots in city of Glenwood. We still remain at 3. This project, we have been working with Jennifer for, I was like, I don't remember when it, I was going to say 8, but 9 years. She's been looking for multiple places that several have fallen through. And this one is that final hope of this is moving forward. The piece that I wanted to speak to, and now I don't see the presentation, so I don't want to the employer-based grant. This funding is through the state of Colorado. This is the last funding coming through from COVID for early childhood. Again, there's that huge push, which was awesome. This, as long as well with expanding an emerging grant, they are able to get, if they get this matching funding for it. And both of this does end this year. There's no chance for renewal or applying again. And again, as she said, we do have to have doors open in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add before we ask questions?
I believe that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up with Counselor Godis' question.
Yeah, thanks. So is this proposed to be a nonprofit center?
Correct. Yes, we would operate under a nonprofit.
And is that, would that be a new nonprofit or would it be under the umbrella?
It would be under the Access to Education Foundation nonprofit umbrella, and we'd add a DPA based on what we haven't come up with a name yet. So
Sure. What do you have? One, I mean, would you have any drawings? Do you have any
Yes.
schematics? What's that?
I do, and I can probably get it emailed and presented on the screen pretty quickly.
What It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just.
We've
asking questions.
engaged, architect, I don't know if I'm speaking out, but we've engaged an architect and a contractor and have come over that hurdle. So we are ready to break ground and to get this moving forward. We have the conceptual drawings. We've outlined a number of different classroom layouts and layout settings depending on budget. And it went from 9 to 7 to 4. So we do have conceptual drawings together.
And is this 4 classrooms of 10 children each?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So we've, as a Colorado childcare licensing expert, I understand the capacity requirements for the age groups. And so we would make sure that each classroom is between 500 and 700 square foot, so we could accommodate 10 infants or toddlers in each classroom.
Gotcha.
And they are applying for early start, which would serve the needs.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yes, we would partner with Early Head Start, CCAP, which is the Child Care Tuition Assistance Program, and the CAC program to serve nutrition skills.
And what portion of the mall is this? What
So-
what did it used to be?
So it was.
Here, can you come up
Yeah.
to the podium?
Sure.
Thank you.
So the facility is proposed in the rear of what is the old J.C. Penney's section of the mall. So there's 34,000 square feet in that structure. This would start out at approximately 4,500 square feet of that rear space, accessing off of what was previously the catalog order center and the salon. It would have the ability to expand in the future to up to 9,000 square feet within that space, with its own dedicated entrance off of that rear area. And then there would be a need for outdoor play area as well that would also be accessed around off of the west face of that structure.
Okay.
And I want to confirm before you move on is that my understanding, and I think we do have the property owner here this evening, that even in the event that the mall was redeveloped, this is not the area of the mall that will have any, it will continue to stay in current ownership. So, there's no future in which this would be part of a redevelopment or sold off if the mall were to be redeveloped.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess for staff, how does this, we've talked about our URA and Ross's desire to go into that JCPenney space. How does that interact with this?
It is concurrent with this, with Ross taking the front 25,000 square feet of the
Okay.
space, and the 9,000 square feet that remains would be potentially all child care facility.
So it'd be on the north side of JCPenney's and Ross would be on the south side of disproportionate. 80% of the old JCPenney's would be Ross and the north side would contain this childcare facility.
Gotcha. Where do we have a pro forma of how much the overall cost is and what our contribution would be?
We can share that with you. The estimated overall cost at this point is about $1.2 million. And so the $150,000 is a little bit more than 10% of that, with the additional fee reduction proposed from a.
And Steve, what is the, how much is being requested for fee reduction?
Somewhere around 30 to 40,000.
Okay. And have you guys gotten any other funding commitments from Temple and Buell, from the county, from Massillon Community Foundation?
The restriction that we have there is that we don't have our childcare license yet. We have to build the facility first to be eligible for those types of funds. So once we get up and running, and the facility is open and we're licensed, then we have access to additional funding that would support additional work.
Even from the community foundation?
That's been my experience in the
Okay.
past. Working with other foundations.
Okay.
They want to see kind of. So.
And will you remind us, my understanding for this contribution, how many spots or slots in the daycare would we have priority placement?
So we are open to that discussion as
Okay.
well. Right now, we have a draft agreement with Mountain Family Health Centers to offer them 75% of the slots.
Okay.
That would leave 25% of the
Okay.
slots available, but
So 10. Is that right? If there
Yeah,
are four
if-
classrooms?
with the four.
With the four classrooms. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Counselor Cow.
Actually, Councilor Gotis asked a lot of my questions, but I was interested if you have other partners through other employers or other community partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work closely locally with the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council and CPD that operates that. My center in Rifle partners with them quite a bit. We're part of Universal Preschool. We have the connections that we have through the early childhood networks here locally. And then my experience currently with Community Hospital, they've been a big partner of ours through this. They received the same grant and they built a $5 million facility that holds 106 slots. And so we partnered really closely with them. And then from opening that center, we've been able to get additional funding through Yule and some other organizations now that we're open and operable. So I have the experience and the relationships to continue to seek funding once we're able to get over this facility open.
We certainly have a huge need for childcare. I would not.
Oh,
argue that
Mike,
at
hold on.
all.
There you go.
Oh. Did I get turned
You
off?
turned it off or I turned it off, one of the two. Oops, you
Turned on.
should be on. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
There
Yeah,
you go.
we certainly have a huge need, so I won't argue that at all. I'm just wondering, this is the first time we've seen this, and I don't know if staff has seen it, and I'm interested to hear from staff, city manager, and that in discussions with our staff, what is our need within the city employment pool? How much of that could we use, and will it really be used? I'd like to have some maybe back and forth on that and hear from that. I'm not against an investment from the city, but I just want to have more discussion and maybe from our planning staff on seeing some of the plans and seeing how this might come together.
Sorry.
Do you have an answer?
Oh, hold on. I can't have you. You'll have to come back up to the podium if you want to answer a question, but if you could just hold off for a minute, I'm going to have a couple more questions here and then we'll
Okay.
come back.
Thank
Okay.
you. That's all I have right
Um,
now.
Okay. Counselor Day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve, quick, if we were inclined to fund something like this, where would the money come from?
We'd use reserves from the general fund, I think.
General fund reserves, okay.
And to answer Counselor Kalp's question, is there a need?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, we've been involved in this conversation a little bit. If it were me, because all I really care about is me, so we can use the space with city employees. And I would maybe try to have a conversation, negotiate that number up a little bit. She's smiling at me. But yes, we have a dramatic need for that and it would help a lot.
Mhm.
So we would be happy to, play any way.
Okay. Okay. Counselor Schachter.
Thank you. So related, piggybacking off that, is the capital contribution proportionately similar to Mountain Family's proportion in terms of number of slots?
Not necessarily, and I don't think it needs to be. I think that within the grant, and the way that the grant is constructed, we have the flexibility to move that number. And Annette is here to kind of speak to that. They're seeing a tremendous need too within their organization of slots. And so that's a conversation that we can have, and that's a moving target, and it will be a moving target moving forward. So if there are additional slots open that their staff, may not fill, or a different age group, let's say that their majority of need is with toddlers and maybe the city has more infants, that number can fluctuate, and that's why it's written more of a percentage necessarily than an actual number of spots. And then it's something that then we would also suggest that if we get to the point where the city no longer, we build the city's need, we build Mountain Family's need, we open it up to the general public as well. I think that this has the opportunity to serve a greater good, especially with our growth plans of moving into 7 and 9 classrooms, hopefully in the near future as soon as funding allows.
So related to that, is that ratio non-negotiable at this point? Is it committed already to Mount Family?
Not at all. We were holding off finalizing that until we came here to meet with with you guys. So it is something that we can negotiate internally and in between the different organizations.
And if and when you expand, do you have other partners in mind for additional capital expenses? Or are you coming back to us for fee waivers and more capital contribution? Or don't you
Right of
know yet?
refusal. I think that there are other organizations within Glenwood Springs who have articulated that they have a need as well. You know, the hospitals, some banking organizations, different large businesses that would jump on this opportunity. But the city is the only one that has the opportunity to waive the permitting fees. So we wanted to bring this here, as well as we respect this partnership between Glenwood Springs Mall and the city, and we want to provide this opportunity.
And if I may keep going,
Yeah.
how confident are you with 40 slots? Number one, I don't know what it costs to send a kid to daycare because I don't have to. What are you guesstimating the range per child? And does your pro forma give you confidence that you're operating in black and not red? And
Great question. Yes. And so that's my area of expertise. I am a childcare business owner. I don't run a classroom. I'm not an educator. I have a business background and I'm a business professional, and all of my other two childcare centers run in the black, and we budget based on enrollment. We budget based on the contributions that we get from the other partnerships like Early Head Start and CCAP and the CACFP funding. And so we have not necessarily yet set our price point of tuition. We will determine that once we start hiring and see where we're landing with salary wages. It's really important to me that we operate and provide a living wage to our staff. And then we can make sure that we are also affordable. And so it's kind of a jigsaw puzzle, but we haven't finalized what the tuition costs for this will be yet.
so without holding you to any firm number, based on your experience operating these centers, ballpark, what does it cost to send an infant to daycare for a day these days?
About $65 to $80.
Say it again.
$65 to $80 a day. We charge 65 and for an infant, 62 for a toddler, and 58 for a preschool.
That's all I have right now. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
you.
And then remind me really quickly, my understanding is that you have, how many year commitment would you be signing on to with the mall?
Great question. So our grant requirement with the employer-based grant is 5 years, but our commitment with the mall is at least 10 years. So to the conversation earlier, we want this to be a permanent staple in our community and in this space.
And can you give us kind of I don't know, your other two facilities, I'm not hearing quite as much of a collaborative structure with multiple agencies. Can you give us a breakdown on how that would be executed? Say, if we do have 25% and, somebody comes in, how do you work through that? How does that work if all of a sudden 2 kids apply or 2 parents bring them in?
Sure. And that's been my experience with community hospitals as well, because we allocate 80% of slots there for them.
Okay.
And so, how do we keep track of that? Where do
Yeah.
we document it? We use a database system called CORE. It's through Early Learning Ventures, and it's specifically for childcare. And so it keeps a wait list for us.
Okay.
And then we also, we're able to ask where the family works, who their employer is. We're able to then verify that back with the hospital. And then we literally have 2 separate wait lists, one for hospital employees and one for general public. And so as a spot comes available, we go down that wait list of the hospital. If that age group, there's not a spot, there's not a need there, then we jump over to the general public wait list. So we would do the same. We would have a Mountain Family wait list, a City of Glenwood Springs wait list, and all others wait list, and then move forward.
And from your experience in this childcare desert, how quickly do you think these 40 spots would be filled?
I've had over 5 phone calls already.
Okay.
With just the buzzword of people that were calling, and we haven't announced it anywhere. And after today, I anticipate additional phone calls. So we would fill this within weeks of announcing that it's going to come. Before we open our doors, the center will be full and we will be operating with this.
Okay, thank you so much. Counselor Weimer.
Jennifer, you started to talk about the jobs side of things. Can you tell us a little bit, are we creating net new jobs through this? And can you talk a bit about what kind of jobs, salary ranges, et cetera? What kind of jobs are we creating here?
Yes, absolutely. So they would all be net new jobs.
Okay.
And we're
And about
looking
how many?
between 12 and 14 for a center of 4 classrooms. We would have a director position available. That would be a salaried position. We would potentially have an assistant director. That could also be one of our lead teachers that has kind of a dual role. We would have a lead teacher in each classroom and an assistant teacher in each classroom. Oh, our plans also include a full commercial kitchen. So we would be able to provide much needed meals to some of these families at least 3 times a day. And so we would have a kitchen staff as well. We would also bring in what we call float staff. So staff that give breaks to teachers throughout the day or cover if we have a student who are out. I know that recently there's been a pain point of staffing in every industry across the board. My background, I spent 11 years in the recruitment and staffing industry. And with my center in Grand Junction, we had 26 new jobs that we opened up. We had over 180 applications, and we ended up hiring 28 staff. And so with my center in Rifle, we have staff that live closer to Glenwood. We have staff that would commute for a potentially higher wage. So I do feel like we would be able to staff this. We're also fortunate to have CMC here locally, and they have a tremendous early childhood education program. And right now there's tons of grants. There's a career advancement grant. There's some early childhood education grants to incentivize individuals to seek a career in an education or early childhood education field.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Counselor Cow.
Actually, Counselor Wyman took care of my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Godus.
Yeah, so I'm just not quite clear. What is Mountain Family Development or Mountain Family Developmental? What's your role in this?
So Mountain Family Health Centers. So we have the clinic in Glenwood, Rifle, and Basalt, Avon, Gypsum. Our role is as a nonprofit 501c3 that is able to accept this grant, which is partially, it flows through the state, but it's also an ARPA grant, so it's federally funded. We have the capacity and the ability to be the flow through actually for or the pass through for those grant funds.
So you're the fiscal
as
agent.
the employer.
Okay, so you're the fiscal agent at this point?
Yes.
And do you have any agreement for slots or anything like that at that point, or are you just a fiscal agent?
We have an agreement that is pending signature. I think we're at the final stage of it for Jennifer to be the operator and manager of these funds and ensure compliance with all of the grant requirements in terms of the 5-year commitment to operate the childcare center. And then also the certifications and the licensures and all of that, so that we are deferring her expertise to run it.
I guess my question is, does Mountain Family get, do you have preferred slots as well in?
Yes.
They
this?
get
Okay.
70, they would get
Yes.
75 of them, and there's 25% that are, yeah,
75%.
75%, thank you. 25% are available.
So we would
I
have,
see.
we would have first option for that 75% of the slots. If we don't fill them, then they will.
And so what is your fiscal contribution to the project?
Managing the funds. We're not charging an admin.
Okay. And so if we're talking about 40 slots, so we're talking about 10 slots for the city. Is that what we're talking about for the 200,000-ish? Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, come on up.
Because I know where you're coming from. Background is it was an employer-based grant, and it had to be a non-childcare nonprofit that is the employer for it. So that's why there's several of them that popped up just recently. It was a specific grant that it couldn't be an existing childcare saying we're going to do it. It had to be somebody else. That's where the I'm like watching your wheels spinning.
Well, yeah, no, without a pro forma or anything in front of us, it's
Yeah,
just good to know, what numbers we're talking about.
Okay. Counselor Schechter.
Thank you. A couple more follow-up questions. Whether it be our employees or the general public, is there an avenue for financial aid? And what is that avenue and how difficult is it for a family to qualify and get it?
There definitely is, and the primary one would be CCAP, the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, and that is housed through each county, and the family would just need to apply through the Department of Human Services, and so we would accept that within our program. And then there's additional funding through Early Head Start, and then as a private program, we would be able to have sliding scales. We're going to be able to provide that to Mountain Family employees. And then just determine where our budget goes month to month, we would be able to offer scholarship opportunities to lower income.
So from your experience, this is very difficult, probably. Do you have an idea of what percentage of your families participating are likely to get aid and qualify and still allow you to operate at a reasonable level?
Yes, so the reimbursement that we would get from Garfield County's CCAP would be equivalent, pretty close to the dollars that we would then charge for tuition also. So the reimbursement for CCAP in Garfield County is significant and doesn't put us at a budget constriction. And it's income based. There's a few other factors that they consider, but the majority of families that we have in Rifle that apply, when we opened our center, we operated at 75% of our families were on CCAP. That has post-COVID kind of shifted a little bit, and we're seeing a lot more private pay and a little bit less need for financial assistance for childcare. And then that is where we can also seek financial assistance from other organizations, Community Foundation, to help support that gap from those families that fill the high rate of childcare tuition, but don't necessarily qualify for the public assistance. So there's a few different creative avenues that we can go and resources that we can provide to families.
And related to that, is there, because it's extremely competitive for slots, is there some kind of coordinated outreach to families who may have no access or even not know about the ability to get financial aid?
Yes, and that is why it's really important to me to partner with Early Head Start. With Early Head Start, we be assigned a family coordinator, and that family coordinator does the reach out program, and families, they introduce us to families who would qualify for Early Head Start and then also potentially most likely qualify for CCAP, and they provide additional funding to our centers to make it worth our while to be able to open our doors to some families that aren't hiring.
And lastly, thank you for your indulgence. With all these slots having priorities, does your own staff have priority over the other two potential parties?
Potentially, yes, that's the biggest retention opportunity, that we have as well. So we always want to build in a few of those. Also, a childcare center would never operate at full capacity because we have to move children from children that age up into different rooms or, different capacities, maybe a little less than to keep our teachers sane. There's a few reasons why we don't operate at full capacity. So we would always have a little bit of wiggle room. We had a staff member that we really needed to come on board that would also.
I'm going to jump in really quickly and ask you that. So in the event that we heard your ask this evening, but that's only for the 4 classrooms, which equates to 40 position or places. Which means that you guys I did see plans for the expanded 7 classrooms, which would allow for 70 kids. You guys would likely go out and talk to other community members to see if there's opportunity for them to collaborate with you as well, correct? For those other rooms?
We would.
Okay.
We would need 300,000 total to be able to expand to the same.
Does that include our 150 or would be 450 with hours and then the other? No. Can you come up? Thank you. Thanks.
So the performer that we created looked at the 7 classroom configuration, that was approximately 1.5 million.
Okay,
With the additional funds that mall could commit with the larger rent area, we would need $365,000 plus a fee waiver. That includes the 150 that would come from
okay,
city partner.
Yeah.
For classroom configuration. One point that I just wanted to state on the fees that we were estimated by classroom,
mhm,
it was based on the 7 classroom configuration
mhm.
at $30,200, and it would be less than that in the event that we
Okay, perfect, thank you. Either of you add anything at this point? Like, yeah. Steve, do you have anything? Okay,
No, I think I would absolutely support this
Okay.
from our perspective, and I think it would help your employees as well.
Mhm.
I would like to talk to him as I understand a little bit more about the demand,
Mhm.
you know, about 10 spots, but it'd have to be a win-win. I mean,
Mhm.
I think if we have 10 spots, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Counselor Weimer.
Yeah, and I just have I think it's I don't know if you guys can answer this or not. Just help me understand, who does childcare benefit? As far as where the location is, does it benefit families more so who maybe live down valley and work here, or families that live here and work up valley? Can you answer that?
Great
Who does it-
question.
who
And I
does it
think that's a
benefit?
family preference if they
Mhm.
prefer to have their child closer to where they work. Sometimes nursing moms prefer that.
Okay,
Some people prefer to have their children closer to their home if they need, run late at work and need a grandparent or a family friend to run and pick up. I would say that with what we've seen with the need, families are so desperate that we have families work in Glenwood, live in Glenwood, drive to Rifle, drop their children off and come back to Glenwood. So with the current state of childcare, it's more of a wherever they can find a spot and they'll commute.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's, for us, the 10 spots would likely be people who are working for the city. So it would be, people who are within 10 to 15 minutes of the facility. So, Counselor Godus.
Sorry, just another question. So I think Jeff was talking a little bit. It would cost to get that additional. So right now there's proposed 40 slots. The capacity would be 70 slots, 7 classrooms, 10 slots each. And to get to that 70 would take another 350,000.
Not another, a cumulative
Cumulative.
of 365,000.
Yeah.
And I have a performer that I can give you guys in the handout.
Mhm.
I apologize. It wasn't prepared. We didn't have final numbers in time to get it into the public packet. I have them with you and I can hand them to you.
So, yeah, that'd be great if we could get that just emailed. But so I guess my question is 350,000 total. So that'd be an additional 150.
It'd be,
365 total plus a fee waiver.
Yeah.
Would get us to 70
gets,
slots. we believe.
gets,
Okay.
and then gets the
So
city.
you're asking us,
to-
oh,
yeah.
it's like you're asking us for 200,000.
150.
100, I'm sorry.
Plus
Plus
fees.
the.
Gotcha. So you're asking us for 100. You're asking us for 150,000. But if you had an additional 200,000, you could add 30 more slots.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great. Counselor Dim.
Thank you. Just real quick, you said 10 spots, we should be fine.
Mhm.
Could we use more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that exactly. I think we could probably fill those 10 right away. I don't really want to make any commitments above that, but I think
Okay.
it's possible.
Could
mean,
we
this
look
would
into
help
that
us.
though?
It's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible also before this moves forward to see if there's some other community partner so that those kids don't have to listen to hammers and saws and for, as you grow and just do it all at one time?
I think that it comes back to our tight deadline
Sure.
of meetings.
Okay,
where it's
okay.
open.
Yep.
So we would either need to get to higher commitment now and know that
Yeah.
we're building something out the gate, or we're at it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Counselor Zelinski, let's hear from you.
So I wanted to hear everybody's questions and kind of get to that point. So yeah, that was with the need, I think the growth and the expansion is inevitable. So you probably already have a plan for that. What does that look like?
So we have a plan on paper with regards to where the classrooms would lay out, what structure we would need within the building. What we don't have a solid plan on is where the money is going to come from to expand that. So that would be our next, financial campaign would be to grow those classrooms.
And that would never impact the number of slots that the city has a commitment for?
No, correct, because those would be the commitment within the 4 classrooms.
Got it. So there would be like a guaranteed 10. And what happens with change of employment? In like your other facilities, how do you manage that?
That's a great question. So with community hospital, we've built into our operating agreement that we don't kick a child out of their childcare slots. That's not in the best interest of the child or family. But we convert their tuition rate back. We take away their subsidized tuition rate. And so it really incentivizes employees to stay with their employer to help them with child.
Okay, great. I'm gonna bring it back to council for a motion and then a discussion, because I think that's probably where we're at. Counselor Godus.
I'm ready to make at least a motion on the fee waivers.
Okay.
So I'll motion that we do the fee waivers in full, up to $40,000. That's my motion to get things started.
Great. And the second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, can you turn your mic on, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. I'll bring it back to council for questions, comments, and others for each other. Anybody? Okay, Counselor Godus.
I'm just kind of having a hard time making the math work for Glenwood Springs in this. 70 slots, 400,000 is needed, 365 plus the fee waivers. So if 400,000, and help check my math here, please, everybody. If 400,000 is needed to produce 70 slots, that values each slot at $5,700 approximately. But we're being asked for approximately 200,000 for 10 slots, which values our slots at 20,000 a slot. So I think that that's disproportionate because to the value of the slots, what you're saying the slots are at full build out. I understand the first build out's going to be more expensive, so I understand that. I also think that, with Mountain Family, if we're putting up $200,000 but only getting 25% of the benefit, that values their contribution at $600,000. And I don't know that 600,000 is necessarily the value of being a fiscal agent to a nonprofit. Maybe it is. I don't know. So I guess my thinking is, also, and then I'll say also that I'm also hesitant to, we are in such a staffing crisis. We always have been with early childhood. And when a new program opens up, there's a lot of excitement. Not that many open up, obviously, but there's a lot of excitement. But if they're a good program and if they pay decent, that takes staff away from other programs. It's not like there's a lot of people sitting at home going, golly, I'm waiting for these positions to open up. So I'm a little bit worried that this is not going to create more childcare capacity in our area, at least initially, because I think that other programs will struggle greatly as they lose staff to this program. That's fine. It's a free market. We can roll with that. We can figure that out. I think, there are enough entities. There is Garfield County that supports early childhood. There is the Aspen Community Foundation that supports early childhood. So I think as a region, the region needs to get together and say, wow, there's programs that are going to close if there is a 7-classroom program that employs 20 people, because those 20 people aren't just in the ether right now. So I think, getting back to my original, I think for the money that they're asking, and that's why I was very comfortable with the fee waivers. I think the fee waivers, what's that?
Let's move on that.
Yeah, I think that's very easy. I would love to see, Jeff, the pro forma. I would love to see more of I don't need to say it now. No, not now. I would also love to see Garfield County approached and have a commitment from them. I'd love to see Aspen Community Foundation approached and get a commitment from them. I think you have a fiscal agent, so you're able to apply for grants and you're able to get grants from those entities through Mountain Family. So I think I'm good with my motion for tonight. I would love for this to come back when it's a little more developed, some more funding partners come on. And then I would also like to see our staff work so that our contribution that is being asked of us is proportionate to the slots available.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in really quickly and I'm gonna talk about the time frame. My understanding is that the time frame on this does not allow us, unfortunately, this one is one of those times of the essence. If we don't provide this funding at the minimum for the 40 class or for the 40 slots, the 4 classrooms, they won't be able to get it completed with the timing. And in turn, we'll lose the grant. Is that correct? Okay, I'm seeing some nodding heads. So there is a motion on the table to waive the fee. So let's tackle that one and then we'll come back if everybody's good. So let's call the question on the table. Thank you. Okay, so that is a unanimous approval of the fee waivers for the project. Okay, absolutely. Counselor Cow.
I would like to.
There you go.
Okay. I would like to make a motion just based on the discussion here and the need within Glenwood Springs and the recommendation from our city manager that this can help us with employee retention as well as just being a good move for the community. I don't feel like I want to re-engineer the project. If you guys, start small, get it in the door, make it successful, and then it can expand. I think that's a good plan and it's a great grant opportunity. So I will move that we also approve the support of the project in the amount of $150,000 from Glenwood Springs with the agreements that have been discussed here.
Counselor Day.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. I'll open that back up to questions and comments with Counselor Zelinski starting.
So I'm just curious, kind of to go to the funding and the investment that we're making. This is a project that we don't want to see not move forward. We want to definitely, so if the 150,000 is what we need to like get that going. On the next phase, when that expansion happens, is there the potential for maybe like, say, maybe we get another 5 spots committed from that, with our initial contribution, kind of like sweat equity, we've got that in there. Would there be a way that we could do that where the numbers feel a little bit more equitable, but we, are showing kind of like our investment in making sure that this happens?
I'm gonna let her, we don't usually do that, but I am gonna let you comment on that because I think it's pretty pertinent.
I think that's a very creative solution.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is that something you'd like to amend your the motion on the table?
That,
Not yet?
I turned my mic.
Okay, hold on. You're okay. Go ahead.
I do think that I would like to see that as part of the discussion, but I want to hear from everybody else
Okay.
first, kind of where we're at with that.
Great. Counselor Schachter.
Yeah, along those lines, I hate to see us keep chipping away at our general fund reserve, but that's what it's for. I hear from our city manager that it is important, it's affordable, and it will help our staff, along with what the other counselors have said. My math is a little different, but I still say, hey, based on what we're being asked, we should have about 40% of those slots, not 25. So along with the other counselors and Counselor Zelinski, I don't know that I'd amend, I don't know specifically if I'd amend for a specific amount, no less than 25%. And then I'd leave it up perhaps to our city manager to negotiate. Because I heard 2 things. I heard, 1, we have a right to negotiate more slots if there's a demand. And I just heard something about employee subsidy. So I think there's room for negotiation. I'm willing to defer that to the manager.
Okay. And would you like to add that to the motion? Yeah.
Sure,
Okay, so
unless I'm preempting Aaron.
Counselor Cap.
From what I hear is just to amend the motion to include future negotiation over at which time the facility expands.
Um,
I ask for a minor clarification? I think what Counselor Shackner said was a minimum of 25%. And then negotiate up from there, either on this round, future round.
And leave it up to the manager to negotiate that number.
Either this round.
Either or both.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
okay. Counselor Diamond, do you want to?
Amend my second.
Amend your second. Okay, so let's do a little quick clarity before, we got a question. Before I clarify the motion, I'm gonna let Counselor go.
It is a question. So so with the negotiation, if that negotiation part, but we've already committed to 200,000. So a friendly amendment would be, can we change the motion to be up to $200,000 and negotiate? Because if you go into negotiation, we already give them the committed to the 200,000.
If I do the math.
Okay, I'm sorry, 180. I have $40,000 of fee waivers
Yeah.
and $150,000 of actual money, but that,
It's like 190.
The 40 was the max, but I think I heard 30 was estimated for the.
Oops, Counselor Cap, sorry.
so
The seven classrooms, the fees were estimated at 30, so if it's gonna come in lower for 4 classrooms, then yeah.
that's
I'm
fine.
at
My,
180.
but the previous motion that passed was 40 already
Up
for fee.
to
Up to-
maximum.
That's fine. So
Okay.
whether it's 108 or 200,000, it's semantics. I don't care.
Well,
but-
We're talking numbers here.
But your motion was for 200,000.
My
no?
motion is for 150.
50,
On
150.
top of the fee waiver.
Okay, so I guess I'm saying is my friendly amendment would be to ask if Sumner, you'd rather have it be 40% and staff would rather have it be 40%. And you're asking for negotiation, we also should be able to say, and they should be able to respond like, no, we can only give 25% because we have other commitments, then that number might go down is what I'm saying. So
I'm not open to that
Yeah.
amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect. I have a motion. I have a second. Let's call the question. And is it clear?
Yeah.
I should,
I think
okay.
for me,
Great. Okay.
Yes, Counselor Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Wusso. No, Counselor Godus. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Dame. Yes, Counselor Weimer. Yes, Counselor Kaup. Yes, Counselor Schechter. It passes 6-1.
So I'll just say thank you all for the efforts and the energy, and we hope to collaborate and work with you in the future to provide a much needed service for this community. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when there's a ribbon cutting, we'd love to be involved. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, we are going to move on. We're moving on to a presentation from Educational Pathways Innovation Center, otherwise known as EPIC. You know, like the other one tonight, where she had a year. I know. Okay. Hey, I didn't. Okay.
It wasn't him. It was her.
Oh, okay.
What's that? There's chocolate down here if anybody needs that.
I do need it.
Okay.
This one, take that. Keep around.
Thank you, council, for your time. Thank you for listening to this presentation.
My name is Mike Lowe. I'm the Executive Director of CoVenture. For those of you who don't know, CoVenture is a business incubator located in Carbondale. We've been there for 5 years. I think our success is nothing short of extraordinary. We've helped over 100 businesses. We've been responsible for 128 jobs in the Lower Valley. We've helped raise 22.5 million for local companies that help accelerate growth. We have, many Silicon Valley down at 201 Main Street in Carbondale, 2 companies that are probably valued at over $500 million. So we've been quite proud of our growth. But I would say of all the success we've had, the thing I'm most proud of, the thing I feel is most important to our economy right now is the current partnership we have with the Colorado River BOCES on a project called EPIC, Educational Pathways to Innovative Careers. And for those of you who maybe are more familiar with the term trade school, the term that we use now is CTE centers, your technical education centers. The model that the BOCES has created, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the BOCES, an educational agency that works with 4 counties, 10 high schools, or I should say 7 school districts, and within those 7 school districts, there are 10 high schools. So that collectively represents about 6,500 students. They're targeted, this initiative is targeted on those kids who are on college bound. Really target on those seniors who traditionally fallen through the cracks, haven't received great counseling on career pathways or next step opportunities. And a lot of the heart of this is in work-based learning. So we started this several years ago, or I should say 3.5 years ago, with a listening tour of industry. We sat down with 214 industry representatives across multiple sectors. I think the traditional sectors, blue collar professions, plumbing, electrician, construction, auto, of course, were at the very top, but kind of going back to the earlier presentation, it's labor shortage is still a critical issue, not just for our nation, but for our area. So we see this as an elegant solution to fill local jobs with local talent. I think talent drain, and one of the big challenges is not just that college is overpriced and the lack of skilled labor, but there's a huge talent drain. Historically, if you look back at small communities, kids graduate, move on to the city to try to figure out work. We think we figured out a system. It's not perfect, but we feel like we figured out a system that's helping place those kids in work-based learning opportunities where they're developing relationships with business owners who, in essence, are kind of conducting a 3 to 6 month job interview. And at the end of that, if they're successful, hire those kids. We had over 300 kids, juniors and seniors, mostly from 7 high schools. 7 of the 10 high schools have participated in 8 pathway programs, from auto to construction to cybersecurity. At the top level, this may sound like a small number, but I think it's nothing short of extraordinary. 37 seniors were placed in work-based learning opportunities. 34 of those 37 were offered jobs. 27 of those 34 kids are still working 6 months out. We're talking Toyota, we're talking Gould Construction, we're talking local plumbers. The fact that we've, on a song and a prayer and with some, just a collective effort from some really good strategic partners, that we were able to kind of have that success out of the gate speaks well for this particular initiative. In addition to the commitment from those school districts between Aspen and Parachute, the fact that it is the Colorado River BOCES that is behind this, and that is the region that we serve, provides a certain stability, a certain base. There's certain operational efficiencies that we've been able to achieve. We've been very successful at writing grants and somewhat successful at raising funds. I kind of come to you tonight in an effort to try to get to the finish line on an Opportunity Now grant, which requires a match. So we've received a 3 to 5 year commitment, $500,000 a year for the next 3 to 5 years. Requires a match, about 30,000 shy of that. I'm confident we can get to that finish line before the end of the year, but I come to you to ask for a $10,000 commitment. We've got a $100,000 commitment from Garfield County, 50 from Pitkin, 5 from Rifle, 10 from Aspen. Again, this is one of those things where it's like everyone is coming together. Everyone has seen the value in this. We would be grateful for your support. There's a number of things I can share with you about the business model and how many kids are impacted, how many partners are involved. At this point, we have 62 industry partners who have committed to work-based learning. That ranges from First Bank. We've got 2 kids over at First Bank right now who, if successful, will be offered jobs. We've got 7 kids scattered between Honda, Toyota, and Subaru. We've got 2 kids at Gould. We've got 5 kids at Gallegos. I mean, it's just remarkable what has happened in a short period of time. I think the beauty of it is this is not one of those things where we're asking for a tremendous amount of money to build a facility where students will then go to that facility to learn. This is a unique, streamlined opportunity where kids are going right to the work site where they might get hired. And I hate to say we're like cutting out the middleman, which is education, but I think not to undermine the educational opportunities out there, but Toyota hired eight employees last year. Half of them were from our program. The other ones were from Lincoln Tech, kids who had dropped $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a 1-year technical education. They all were hired at the same rate. And I think we're especially proud that our kids were able to check the necessary boxes to be hired by those companies. And I think we're also happy that those kids, being local kids, we feel like there's a better chance that they'll stay here for a longer period of time. Affordable housing is a problem. And we're still working with Habitat and other organizations to try to figure that one out. But I do think for a lot of these kids who are getting these jobs, they do have some support system in place where they can stay with mom and dad, as they learn the trade, as they become successful, and as they look at their peers. Most of these kids are starting out between $45,000 and $50,000 a year. And as we look at the growth over a 3 to 4 year period, most of those kids will end up with around $80,000. So while their peers are graduating from college with $100,000 of debt, they'll likely have their first truck. They'll likely be in some kind of apartment. They will have sort of developed the life skills that we always hope our kids who go to college will. It's just a win-win on a number of levels. So I would be grateful for your help. We get to the finish line. The ask tonight is for $10,000. Happy to answer any questions you want.
I'll bring it back to council for questions. Counselor Godes.
What is, you might have mentioned it, what is there a deadline, a time frame that, is this why you're here now?
It's the end of the year.
I'm sorry?
It's the end of this year.
This year, okay.
And we're close. I'm $32,000. I mean, I've raised almost $470,000. And it has to, the other thing, it has to be a particular type of commitments. They want to see like local municipalities committed. It's critical that Garfield County and Pickens County and Rifle and Carbondale and Aspen are participating. In fact, that 2 of the 10 high schools that we're serving are in this town. This would, it would be great.
So we have 23 days left to make this commitment.
Do you find that there's any correlation with kids who are doing these projects? I mean, are you working with Youth Zone to see if there's any causal link between kids who are involved in EPIC and then they don't have, marijuana or the issues or drug charges or anything like that? Like, is there any evidence you can share with us? Do you know?
We don't have that.
Okay.
We're in our 3rd year. I think we're hyper focused on, and I think most of the success or the early success has been with Ramp and Bridges.
Yeah.
Historically, both these high schools have less than 4% of their students going to college. But we've also had kids from Glenwood Springs High School. And to be fair, we do have kids who do go to college that participate.
Yeah.
Where the experience has helped them get scholarship, helped them get more clarity around what their focus is.
Yeah.
So it's not to say we're precluding those kids who are college bound. We just want to kind of just raise the bar on how we support kids who want to go to college. Because those of you who've had kids go through the system, it's very college focused. There's very little discussion about careers.
That's so true. Yeah, and the reason I ask is simply where funding come from. And we have a tobacco and a marijuana tax. And I was thinking there's a really strong likelihood that people would be supportive of pulling money from that for this project, for this, this need. So, Counselor Schechter.
Sure, Mike, thank you. Help me understand relationship with CoVenture and BOCES.
We're a strategic partner. So as executive director of CoVenture that represents over 100 businesses between Aspen and Parachute, we have made a commitment to help identify those businesses that would provide work-based learning.
Okay.
But Colorado Workforce is involved. We've got, again, as we go through these 62 businesses, it's a lot of Valley View Hospitals playing ball, Alpine Bank, First Bank, almost all the businesses that are participating in assisting with work-based learning. I would say about half of them are writing a check to support it. And that's helping us secure this opportunity.
But BOCES is still a cooperative funded by multiple school districts in the region. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how much did we give to RE1 this year? Big chunk, didn't we?
Big chunk.
Okay. What relationship, if anything, does CoVenture Epic have to do with youth entity? Is there it sounds like there's an overlap there, is there? Or?
We have kids, and youth entity serves at-risk kids from the entire region. It's not just Yampa kids, typically kids with, alcohol, drug issues. I mean, we work collaboratively with them. We have not gotten to a place where these work-based learning opportunities are being offered specifically to Youth Zone.
No, I don't mean Youth Zone. Isn't there a nonprofit youth entity?
Oh, yeah.
That focuses on that same overlap of.
Yeah, so just to give you an example, like we have this great collaboration with Youth Entity. Our construction program is a series of tiny homes.
Okay.
Right now, we've got four tiny homes that are being built at Aspen, at Bridges, which is working. We've got students from Warwick High School that come over. Youth Entity is our partner in that project.
Are they a contributing partner to this particular grant?
Yes.
And you mentioned it's ideally comes from municipalities. How much employer dollars have come into this? Or can they?
Well, I mentioned we have 62 businesses that are participating. About half of those businesses are committed to write a check to help support the operations. And I could go down the list. Alpine.
No need to go down the list. No. Okay, thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Councilor Zelinski.
So how do you go about identifying, like, is there opportunity for this to expand? Is there any limit for the businesses, or is there certain category, like sectors that you're kind of recruiting, or do you see this kind of like an unlimited option?
To be honest, it's a great question. I think we're starting with where we see the immediate need and immediate response. So the usual suspects, we've got probably 12 plumbers. The electrician is a little bit trickier, especially with all the changes that are happening that some of you may be aware of. So we're working closely with this nonprofit entity. I want to say it's WIEC, where the kids it's a little bit more rigorous. So we have kids doing classes through them that we pay for. And then there's a whole new organization that's starting to move electrician training over to the Western Slope. I'm sure you're aware of that. We're working collaboratively with them to just find what is the pathway that makes the most sense. And we've got, for example, with all the trades, we have a 6-week boot camp. We tried to do a 20-week boot camp, but it seemed to be too much. The 6-week boot camp seems to be enough to isolate those kids who are ready to move on to the next stage. But other things like we have a whole technology piece that we're trying to figure out. A lot of it is IT. Those are the most obvious opportunities for kids getting into technology right out of high school. But some things simply require more training. And when we have a commitment from some of our tech companies, we have kids who go through a separate data science program. It doesn't have to be a college certificate, but if they at least do, it's about a 6-month data science program that there may be some entry-level positions. But these things are still being worked out.
Got it. That leads me to one of my other questions. What's do they have to be actively enrolled in a high school at this point, or is there a possibility for maybe a recent graduate who kind of is at odds and loose ends, and then maybe they come to you and say, hey, I think this would be a good way for me to go?
That's a great question. That was kind of phase 2. Phase 1 is let's make sure we at least are offering some programs in all 10 high schools, and that's taken every bit of effort from all the partners just to kind of make that happen successfully. I think this year we just rounded that corner. We've had about a dozen kids who've graduated in the last 2 years have approached us to see if they could tap in. And that's currently something we're discussing as an executive committee to see how we can open some of those opportunities. I think at this point, we have slots that are still not filled. We won't give those priority to the existing seniors in high school. If those opportunities are not filled by like February, we would probably offer those to the kids who. But the plan is by the next 2 years that we will have a robust program that is, and at this point, we're keeping track. That's another beauty is that we're really using data analytics to like track every kid that's graduates, that doesn't go to college, to stay in touch, like these career coaches that have been hired, thanks to the fundraising that we've done, are doing a great job of sort of identifying kids and getting them in a database and with the intention of staying in touch with those kids after they graduate.
I just want to say I find this to be a very exciting contribution. So thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, all the things I've been involved in the 20 years we worked here, this is the thing that I'm most passionate about. It's the most important one that I've been involved in.
Okay, Counselor Weimer.
Michael, thank you. Looking at the letter that was part of the packet, you're asking for 10, anything more than 10, CoVenture is going to match, right? So as an example, if we were to give 15 tonight, you actually net out to 20. Is that fair?
That would give, so 5.
What
To be
what's
fair,
your-
we can only match up to 10. So if we give 20, but that would get us across.
I was going to just ask, what's the magic number to get you to the finish line tonight?
We're 32 short, but Silt is going to write a check for 2,500.
Okay.
Not quite what I asked, but I know they're going to write a check for 2,500.
God bless them.
So I feel like, 20 would get us across the line.
So if we were to contribute 20 tonight, that gets you, or if we do 15, that gets you across the line.
Close enough. I'll get there.
Okay, well then I'd like to make a motion then that we contribute $15,000 from the, I guess we'll determine whether general fund or alcohol, tobacco or marijuana, both of them coming out of a combination.
Yep.
Okay, so 15 grand, combination of the marijuana fund and the tobacco, oh, those are different funds, okay.
Yep.
Marijuana and tobacco as a annual contribution to the EPIC program.
So then I would second that.
So this is a one-time contribution.
Is it one time or annual?
Well, I came just to ask for tonight, but I would love the opportunity to come back every year for the next 3.
So then
5
let's,
years.
let me revise that, then we just make it a one time, and then we'll see you again.
And I'll amend my second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second and a motion on the table for a $15,000 contribution to EPIC, which allows you to match and get over the finish line with some help from our neighboring community. So that money will come from tobacco and marijuana funds, can it?
Well, would it be okay with council if you just make the motion to,
Yeah.
have me figure out where it comes from? I've
Figure
got
it
a
out.
couple different ideas.
Perfect.
Okay.
There you go. And there's a motion on the table, and unless Aaron Zielinski would like to say something more, which I'm totally cool with. There you go.
Really
Okay.
quick, are you confident that the money is there and that this is we're not committing you to something that you can't do? I need your sign off, I guess is what
No,
I'm
if,
saying.
if you guys will let me, figure out how to do it, I'm
Yeah.
pretty confident, but there are a couple of things I'd like to do, like maybe talk to the advisory board. and
Okay.
They've got that asked there.
Perfect.
But we can get it done.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Counselor Dem.
Thank you, Michael, for showing me this. I wasn't aware of this. I am extremely happy that it exists. I am blue collar through and through. I've come through apprenticeships. I've learned my trade through apprenticeships, and college is overrated. So for me to see this, I am in 100% support, and I wish you best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
so much.
Next year I'll bring a student.
Perfect.
Cool.
That would be great. Yeah. It's been brought to my attention that we need to amend your motion to just give the city manager direction to pull from whatever.
So
fund. Hold on one second. Let's see. Okay, good.
Yep, so
Yeah.
my amended motion is to approve a contribution in the amount of $15,000 one time to the EPIC to EPIC.
Amend my second.
Okay. Counselor Gotis.
So what did you say the other communities? Can you list off the other communities that contributed how much again?
Sure. maybe it would be, I'm working on all of them. It's just some.
Or what the asks are. What have they committed and what the asks are?
Aspen, so again, Garfield County, 100K, they've made a 5-year commitment in a year, but same thing, I come back, make sure we're checking all the boxes, Picking County, 50K. Rifle 5K, Aspen 10K. Parachute's thinking about it, Beck's thinking about it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Newcastle, still 2,500. Carbondale's 5K, those all, I haven't had a chance to present to them.
Okay. And I guess my comment is, I think I probably won't support 15K. I think the ask was for 10. I'd support 10, but 15 seems out of line, not out of line, crazy out of line. It's just, I don't think it's proportionate to what the other communities are putting in. And I think in the vein of my last comments, I think the equity of which we contribute to these projects that are regional in nature needs to be equitable.
I could just respond to that. So 2 of the 10 high schools are here. I would say 90% of the job placements are in Bowling Springs.
Thank you. Counselor Schechter.
I will support the motion. However, I will state that I have reluctance to support this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we give a lot to RE1, which is indirectly, and that's a BOCES related thing. There are plenty of entities. This is an easy ask, Mike. It should be. And it's a nominal amount. It should be easy to raise it from employers and others as well. In addition, because, and unless this comes from, I'd rather see it come through our grant program, much rather in the future. And also the tobacco, as it's slated, but I will support it this year, but in general, I'm reluctant to do it. And I'm old enough also to remember, sadly, when all those programs were done in RE1 in-house, sadly, and the need is huge. But anyway, the end of that,
Perfect.
yes.
And so before I call the question, I will ask you that if you know that this is going to be annual, if you can just get in touch with our financial advisory board, get on the email dissemination list, you'll see the grant application. And this is definitely within that parameter of amounts that they give out. And it's just so much cleaner for us because we really appreciate their recommendations once a year. Thank you, Mike. Okay. I'm calling the question. Yeah.
It's unanimous 7-0.
Happy holidays.
The application, I think, opens up next month, typically in January or February for that. So
Okay.
be on the lookout for that.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to, it says item 11, update on ordinance 2023-06. This is the extension of the marijuana hours from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is a follow-up from what, 6 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, we brought it back. You guys wanted to have a check-in.
Yep.
Unless you want to reel them back, the kind of, I think where we ended up was made the change. You could always give us direction to change it back. I do think that Ryan has a bunch of the statistics that he can run down with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so long. So as you know,
You're feeling big and bold.
I know. We passed or a petition was passed around earlier this year, and it went to you and it obtained the appropriate amount of signatures, and it gave you the option to either pass the ordinance as presented or turn it over to a special election. You guys had a special meeting on April 24th, which it passed the ordinance on a 5-1 vote with the caveat that it be brought back with for review in several months with data as collected to give it some time. Here's the data. Finance from May to October of 22 compared to May through October of this year. Out of the 6 marijuana locations, 6 had increases in tax remitted, 3 had decreases. So there was no discernible change there. Police, there were no calls related to any of the marijuana businesses. They had calls in the general vicinity, but no directly related. And fire, there has been one THC related incident during the extended hours from May 14th to present. And that is, yes, SCOTUS.
Hold on, no, no, that's not how, we're
Or
not
yes,
gonna
count,
vote that.
yeah. And that is it. Those are the three data collection.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll bring it back to council for any questions. Anybody have any questions like, what is a THC related thing?
What is it?
Hold on, press your mic. Counselor Godus, did you have a question?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah,
But I mean, actually, if you guys are fine leaving it where it is, you don't need to take any action. Only if you wanted to change things.
okay. I was the one vote that did not support this last time. However, I did have an opportunity to speak to Chief Darris, confirmed all that stuff and said he didn't have any concerns with leaving it where it is. So I'm still not a huge proponent of it. However, it does align with that the liquor stores. And so, you know, it keeps it consistent. So do we don't have to do anything. Okay, great. Perfect. Then we'll move on. Well, it's an ordinance. We need to open it. If it's an ordinance, don't we have? Oh, it's an update. Okay, it says one reading. Okay, perfect. Oh, no, that's the next one.
That's the next.
Okay, I got this. Confidence in me. Item number 12 under actions and or presentations. This is ordinance 2023-20, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Glenwood Springs appropriating funds for fiscal year 2024.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Steve Boyd, City Manager. You passed the budget in the first meeting in November. This ordinance gives staff the authority to spend the dollars with it.
Perfect. Bring it back to council. Counselor Dame.
Madam Mayor, if I may, in ordinance 2023-20, I would like to move that we pass the ordinance to appropriate funds for the fiscal year of 2024.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 13, ordinance 2023-21, amend the 2023 budget appropriation. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, this is at the end of every year, we make some adjustments to the budget now that we know what the actuals are going to be so that we can be as close as possible for transparency and for reporting purposes. And that's what.
Perfect. Back to council for a motion or discussion. Counselor Zelinski.
I make a motion that we amend the budget appropriation for 2023.
Via ordinance 2023-21.
There you go.
And a second.
I'll second, but as an order, do we have to open the public comment at all?
Okay.
But do we, and just for a point of interest,
Yeah.
do we also need to go back and look at the last one, which we didn't open for public comment?
So let's turn to our legal counsel and ask him.
It probably wouldn't hurt to do
Okay.
that. I'm sorry. I kind of saw the mayor checking to see if there was interest in the room, but to say on the record, open to the public.
Okay,
probably wouldn't hurt.
so I will open back up item number 12, which we do have a unanimous approval on, to see if there are any public comments for anybody online or here. And I will close the item number 12 to public comment and keep that unanimous approval unless anybody has objection.
Don't we need to do a reading since it's an ordinance?
Well, it was first reading.
It was first reading.
You don't need to
Okay.
call the
You,
question.
you can,
Okay.
the minutes will reflect that
Yeah.
it was unanimous.
Okay, great. And then now on to item number 13. Open it to public comment. Any public comment regarding ordinance 2023-21, amending the 2023 budget appropriation? Anyone online? Okay, we will close that section. I'll bring it back to council for an action and or discussion. Counselor Zelinski. Oops, you were already on. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think we
had-
had a motion and a second on the table.
Okay, so then I'll just call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that motion passes. Thank you all so much for your patience through our bumpiness there.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Moving on to item number 14, stormwater fees.
All right.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah, you know what? Let's do this. While you guys are working on that, oh, you got it up. I was gonna say we take a quick break, but
We can take a quick break.
yeah, let's take a quick break. We'll come back at 8 o'clock. If that's long enough, maybe 2 minutes after 8, something like that. Okay. See who we're missing. Okay, let's jump on back. Yeah, I don't know if I needed to do that, but we're back in action. Okay, back in action.
All right.
Can we close that door, please? Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Ready? Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Gordon. I'm the city engineer.
I'm Ashley Dostal, the assistant city engineer.
And so we're here to talk about stormwater, in particular, stormwater fee in lieu, something that we don't have, but it's something that we really want. So real quick, when anybody in the city comes and redevelops, does any sort of redevelopment, they're required to treat their stormwater. Currently, that entails quite a bit of effort, hiring an engineer, doing some analysis, going through quite a bit of calculations to come up with how much stormwater quantity they need to treat, and designing a treatment system. We want to make it a little bit easier for everybody and have them an option to simply pay a stormwater fee in lieu. I'm going to get to a few of the details. So number one, why are we doing this? So stormwater is something we need to deal with. It's basically another utility. And we don't have a requirement to treat stormwater yet, but very soon we will be. So it's called an MS4 permit, and it is governed by the size of a community. Right now, Glenwood does not have one, but in the very near future, we will. That cutoff from a population standpoint is 10,000 people. So we're right on that border. We want to get ahead of the new stormwater treatment permit that will be coming. That permit will require us to meet certain stormwater standards as it leaves the pipe before it hits the river. As I mentioned, all these developments, whether it's a shed, an ADU, a brand new building, has to do something stormwater. They have to do both stormwater quality treatment and a retention component. There are hundreds, potentially hundreds of these dispersed around the city. We, as the city, are required, like I said, at the end of the day, to manage and treat what leaves the pipe. And therefore, we are required to inspect every one of these individual stormwater treatment facilities throughout the town. We think, as the engineering department, that we can do a better way of managing the stormwater as opposed to everybody having one on their property by having a more regional solution. So this would be essentially at creating big stormwater treatment facilities at the end of the pipe solutions. And there's a lot of efficiencies in that regarding the staff time and saving space and whatnot. We also think this is going to streamline the process significantly for the people who want to develop within the city. Again, it takes quite a bit of time and effort to hire an engineer and go through this. We have developed a process that you can do a very simple calculation and then write the city a check, which then we would use to build, maintain, and operate these stormwater facilities. I'm going to show a couple examples here on the screen of some of the things that we have seen and some of the reasons why we're going this way. So up on the screen, there's many different stormwater treatment technology. You know, one is a dry well, which is essentially a hole in the ground that the water goes into, has some chance to percolate, seep through the ground, and overflow was there in case there's more water that overflows into our system. These are kind of where you have hard sites, site constraints. So if you think about the downtown core, that the lots are small, and if you build a building, you don't have much room on your property to build these stormwater facilities. They can be quite expensive and challenging. Another one this is a small depression or a little stormwater pond. Again, it's the entire front yard of this property is a stormwater feature. It's a little bit hard to tell from this photo, but this is about 3.5 feet deep right next to the sidewalk. You can imagine at night, different conditions, someone could slip, fall. It is an inefficient use of your front yard, let's just say. Could be unattractive. So what we've done to establish the numbers and the fees that we think is appropriate is we've taken a few stormwater systems that have been recently constructed in town. We've talked to a variety of builders and contractors and tried to come up with what the number is. We have some ranges here, right? We don't have exact numbers because when you build the stormwater, it's not a line item for the contractor. So what we've done is we've looked at the cost of building the detention basin or the stormwater feature, how much water from a cubic foot, that CF is cubic feet of water, and came up with a cost per cubic foot to construct in the field. And that's where we came up with. So you can see here, some of the pictures were examples of the ones here. Underground detention system. I won't go through all these, but some are underground detention systems, whether they're the dry wells or there's some other different varieties. Some are the pond that we showed in a previous example. Again, what we've looked at is we've taken a look at that, found a range, and we came up with, we think is $50 per cubic foot. I have an example here at the end, the bottom one, which is a bit less. So I wanted to point this out that depending on where you are, the cost to build the stormwater treatment may not be $50. It may be less. Our plan in our strategy here, this is not a mandate. You as a developer person do not have to write this check and do a stormwater fee in lieu process. You could simply build it yourself. Again, we are providing this option at the front end. Instead of hiring consultants and experts, you can simply cut the check. If you want to go that route and provide the detailed analysis that again would be reviewed by the engineering department, feel free. And again, there are some areas in Glenwood that certainly you can do that, and we don't have any problem with that. But again, we want to provide that option of making it a little bit easier. So we came up with it with the number $50 per square foot. We've done some math and what that, and then one of the things that we would ask the proponent, the developer, is either tell us how much CF or how much cubic feet you're going to need as storage, or we've done the math and we said, look, if you for every 100 feet of impervious ground that you create, that's $365. So you can either do it on a square footage basis on the amount of area you are creating, or you could do the math and come up with a quantity of water. And again, we have lots of off-roads for anybody. If they want to disprove our numbers, they can come in and provide it for that off-road. But again, it's a real simple process. So far, we've talked to quite a few people. Most of our commissions we've discussed this with. So we've gone in front of the River Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission. We've talked to the Downtown Authority and the Transportation Commission. And then we've also talked to multiple architects, engineers, and planners throughout the city to get a sense of, hey, does this make sense or does this not make sense? And I would say it's been a universal, I'd like to say 100%, I don't know the number, but virtually everybody we've said is, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. It streamlines this approach substantially. And our next steps moving forward is this is going to be an ordinance change. We are planning to go in front of P and Z next week to bring it in front of them. Then obviously the process would be coming for first reading and second reading, and in our desired schedule would be to come in front of you guys after P and Z. So the first meeting in January for the first reading, and the second reading in the second reading and the second meeting in January. So that's a pretty quick run through. I want to give you guys obviously an opportunity to comment, ask questions. We're ready to answer whatever questions you have.
Well, perfect. Let's bring it back to council for any questions. Holy smokes. I will ask a question then, and that is, how will you guys reevaluate this at any point? I mean, when you do a $50 per cubic foot, unfortunately, construction costs increase. And I think it's important that when you do the ordinance that it have some kind of inclusion to say it'll be reevaluated on a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have anything like that set in the ordinance itself, and perhaps we can amend our ordinance, but I'd 100% agree. As things progress, we certainly should revisit the number.
Yeah, I think we'll probably actually set up the fee schedule to be adopted annually, like we do with all of the fees, but the structure and authority has to be in the code, and it's going to reside in 070, which is why that has to go for formal action for the planning commission before it comes back to you guys.
Okay. And then my only other comment is that I would probably not be supporting something like this, except for the fact that there is an opt-out and it is going to be required. And this is just that really boilerplate. It allows people to very quickly and easily quantify it. So, Councilor Kopp.
So when you say impervious, then that would include a driveway. It would include anything on the lot that's impervious. So if you have a shed and a driveway, and because you did the example of 1,000 square foot house, but.
Yeah, right. So the way our code currently reads, right, is every additional impervious that you create beyond. So pervious is soil, a yard. Impervious would be concrete, right? So every additional, so you're required to treat the new impervious area that you create
On a lot.
on your lot, right? Yeah. When you come in for a redevelopment.
And when you reached out to the development community, they thought that assessment fee was reasonable. I know.
You know, they did. Again, it runs the gamut. We didn't even touch, there's some that are significantly more expensive than the ones we showed, and it's all developed depending on the site constraints.
Right.
And everybody reached out, thought that was reasonable. And again, to Mayor Wusso's comment, you know, we do provide the option of do it your own way.
Yes.
You know, and so if they have a wide open ranch, tons of space,
right,
well, you can do it really inexpensive. But if you have a site constraint in the north part of town, it's a different story. So again, it's an easy way of giving people an option of just simply doing a multiplication problem and then writing us.
Right. Yep.
But we also have the option of protecting the city by saying that if someone approaches us and feel like that's in an area that we can't handle the stormwater, then we can deny that and say that no, you have to still follow the standard
to do it
and put it on your site.
Okay. So it'll be looked at kind of case by case, but I really like that streamlining, because when we're trying to promote infill, and especially we have small lots north of town, the downtown area particularly, there's not a lot of room to do that storage. So I like this, adding this option for people.
And I will say one other thing to add is we're in the process of redoing the stormwater standard, which is chapter 4, to make it a little bit easier to understand and to provide details. So you'll see that coming up relatively soon, that change. And again, we're not trying to ignore stormwater treatment. We're just trying to make it a little more rational for those ADUs that we're adding to go through a massive study and report.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Councilor Weimer.
So I am not up to speed on chapter 4. I'll freely admit. I guess I thought we have the curb and gutter system. I thought that's where stormwater went. So what, help just educate me. Like, why are we building detention ponds in someone's backyard?
That's a good question, right? So the curb and gutter system is our stormwater system, right? That takes your stormwater away from homes through underground network of pipes to eventually the river. So stormwater pollution is something that we need to be cognizant of. Now, it's not quite so intense on your piece of property, but there are things like sediment and nutrients from, say, fertilizer runoff that we don't want to get into the receiving body. In this case, it would be the Roaring Fork or the Colorado River. So there is a requirement for a water quality perspective that you as the homeowner should do something with the water that leaves your yard, your house. The second one is a detention requirement. So what that requires is that your development doesn't increase the amount of water going into the storm drain system to the point that we are flooding that curb and gutter and stormwater system. So there's two components that we require to make sure that we're not creating an adverse condition downstream.
Okay, thank you.
Can we add the piece about our population, how that changes when we go over 10,000? Because we've been fine below that to run off into the river, kind of unrestricted all these years, but it changes, right?
Yeah, right. So the permit I mentioned, the MS4 permit, I don't know what MS4 stands for, but it's a stormwater pollution treatment permit. And the way it's been rolled out is it has been governed by population. So the larger, population centers, the Denvers, the Fort Collins, et cetera, have been having to deal with an MS4 permit and the ramifications of it for quite some time. And the state has been issuing or requiring municipalities to comply with that MS4 permit. And the trigger is a population base. So initially it started with communities over 1 million, and then it can ratchet it down. And right now, the requirement is when you're over 10,000 people, the state can issue you an MS4 permit. And so your point is taken is we've been that 10,000 person on our census for a while. And so we have not been required to treat our stormwater, but we will in the near future. And so we want to get ahead of that, start to get our ducks in a row. So when it does hit, that we're ready to immediately, start to address those permits.
Perfect. Counselor Schechter.
Just how does this have any impact on all the pre-existing non-conforming stuff in town? Or is it just if somebody adds something, whether it be a shed, a garage, an ADU, or a brand new home?
That's a good question, right? So the stormwater fee in lieu as currently will for those, let's say those historic structures, those historic buildings. And the way it's going to be, and you'll see this in chapter 4, is like I said, right now the code says every new piece of square footage of impervious you create, you are required. However, we're crafting the language in chapter 4 to capture those places that have not traditionally contributed to the stormwater treatment aspect. It's going to be impossible, say, on a single family home who's built, say, in the 1970s, if they're not doing anything, they're essentially grandfathered in, right? And so we have a lot of businesses or areas that, let's say the downtown core, that are 100% built out that have no pervious area. We have some code written into, or I should say some language written into that stormwater standard in chapter 4 that will require those places that are 100% built out to provide some stormwater quality, either through a fee in lieu, this fee in lieu basis, or as Ashley mentioned, requiring them to provide stormwater treatment on their site. So there is a way of capturing those businesses.
So
if they're deciding to remodel.
Yeah.
So if they're
Okay.
doing demolition at 50% or more, I think their actual number is 75% or more, then they'll be required to then provide stormwater or water quality at that.
So the majority of homeowners in town aren't all of a sudden going to get a bill for fee in lieu.
Right, no.
Unless they are adding structures or non-permeable surface to their property.
Yeah, so we're not going backwards and
All right.
saying, hey, everybody, we're now in this new regime of needing to treat stormwater quality. It's going to be from this point moving forward, or quite frankly, our code has said redevelopment or development is when you are triggered to do some sort of strategy.
Okay. bringing it back to council for motion or discussion, like.
I think that as long as, I don't think you need to take an action, as long as you guys are okay. We just wanted to kind of check in.
Yeah,
And like I said, it's going to the planning commission next.
Right, you guys will have another opportunity when we do read the ordinances.
okay,
To opine.
perfect. Thank you. That's
So.
great. Yeah, thanks for bringing
Thanks,
it to us.
everybody.
Okay. Item number 15, ordinance 2023-22, and ordinance amending article 100 .060 of the Glenwood Springs Municipal Code. Who is presenting this?
I can do this one as well. So this is, this was brought by Shelley at last, or sorry, Counselor Kaup at last, council comments. And, this happened because we have a lot of, citizens and tourists that like to, idle while they go hiking, up Dock Holiday Trail and stuff like that. Right now, we have a 15-minute idle time, and that was written back in, I believe, 1997, if I remember the staff report correctly. And we are just looking to get that updated. I called, or I looked at Rifle's municipal report or municipal code. They have a 5-minute idle code. Carbondale has a 2-minute. It's for different reasons. Rifle is for noise ordinance. Carbondale, of course, is for pollution. So it's across the spectrum, and it's they're all much more updated than ours. But of course, it's your decision.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments? Counselor Kaup, you were the one who brought this forward.
All right, I'll just say thank you very much for doing the research and bringing it forward and updating it. And I am fine with the 5 minutes. I don't know if Counselor Godus has input on this. He was another one who was pushing for it, but I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-22, amending the idling time.
Okay, so we will take public comment on this.
Okay.
Yeah, but I needed to do public comment before I could have a motion, so.
Motion, okay, great.
So if there's anyone here who would like to take 3 minutes to visit about the pros and cons and or comments about idling going from 15 minutes to 5 minutes, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, again, I think that's a brilliant move.
Lori Chase.
Lori
City
Chase,
of
705 Cowden,
Thank you.
Glenwood Springs,
Okay, thank
81601. Anyway, I think that's a brilliant move to shorten that up. However, I wonder about enforcement. We have people in our neighborhood that just sit there and idle their
Okay.
cars for sometimes 20, 30 minutes while they're getting dressed and they want a warm car. I'd like that enforced,
Okay.
please.
Appreciate
Thank you
that
very
feedback.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else comment and or any of the attendees would like to raise their hand to comment on this? Okay, we will go ahead and close the public comment, bring it back to council for a motion and or motion and then a discussion.
Okay, I will move that we approve ordinance number 22 of 2023, amending article 100.060.
I'll second that.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and call the question, any discussion?
Well, I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that I Googled it.
Mhm.
Is there a state law that's already on the books? I mean, I'm looking at, I just Googled it, but it says it's Title 42, Article 14. And it's already a 5-minute from the state. And so, hey, I love laws. But I guess if that's the case, do we know that?
I think what I would like, I know that it will mirror the state. I think this is one of those that I'm much more likely to see a municipal citation into our court.
Okay.
Than otherwise. So I'd kind of like to have it on the books for us as well.
The only other question I have is, Shelley, you've mentioned 3 minutes before. Is 5 minutes yeah, are you comfortable with 5 minutes, or would you like to see a different, or would council like to have a different conversation? 2 minutes seems pretty lightning quick to me.
Yeah. just do five.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Let's go ahead and call the question. Thank you. Okay.
It's unanimous. It passes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Kaup. Okay, moving on to item number 16, digital accessibility plan update. Brianna Starbuck at the podium.
I just want to congratulate the council meeting of the year. Well done.
Last meeting. Yeah. We canceled it last time. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Brianna Starbuck, I'm your friendly public information officer. Tonight, I am joined by Aaron Obis, who has been volunteering as our virtual City Hall intern, who has been over the last several months been helping myself and Sarah Weigel on formalizing this digital accessibility plan and policy. He will be helping me present tonight as well. For the benefit of everyone here tonight and the members of the public, just wanted to recap why we need a digital accessible policy. And first off, digital accessibility is important to make sure that everyone has equal access to our programs and services. Our online portals are just as much part of our services as everything else is. And the city is a Title II organization underneath the Americans with Disabilities Act, which of course is federal law. So not only is it super important because we want to do it, but we have to do it. The state of Colorado also passed in 2021, Colorado House Bill 21-1110, the Colorado Laws for Persons with Disabilities Act, which helped to clarify that digital platforms are part of programs and services and that they need to meet those digital accessibility requirements. So this is important to our organization, it's important to our community, and to meet the needs of everyone. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to go a little bit into what is covered in this accessibility plan.
Hello, can everyone hear me or see me okay? Everyone? Hello. Hello, everyone. As Brianna said, my name is Aaron Kobus. I am an online graduate student with Colorado State University. And for the past several weeks, I'd worked with Brianna and Sarah Weigel over at Glenwood Springs for the digital accessibility plan. As Brianna mentioned, the background information on as she mentioned, why we need this digital accessibility plan. We'll go over the Americans with Disabilities Act, as well as Brianna mentioned Colorado House Bill 21-1110. As she mentioned, it is going to be implemented July of next year, July of next year, 2024. We will cover the accessibility policy, along with City of Glenwood Springs, the governance roles and responsibilities in terms of why we need digital accessibility now more than ever, in terms of people who are considered under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. This being people who have cognitive disabilities, other mental disabilities, physical disabilities, and visual disabilities. Evaluation, remediation, and skills and training, as well as communication support and process. And then finally, we will go into our procurement and vendor management and our action plan. With that, I will turn it over back to Brianna.
And so in this plan, it covers these various sections that touch on all the different pieces of digital accessibility. As you all know, we have a lot of digital content, a lot of web content. And so to get that all to a place where we feel comfortable that folks at least have an avenue to request that from staff in a format that is going to work for them, that is, everyone can see how they can do that. And there is a method to get there, as well as updating our processes and our procedures to make it so things are created at the point of creation in a digitally accessible way. I won't read it for you, but we have our accessibility policy that you might notice is on agendas and meeting notices and as many places as we can get it. We want folks to know that if you're needing interpretation or you're needing a large format printing or whatever it is that you might access this information, we want to be able to help you get that. And so with that, big question, how does this plan affect our city operations? There's 4 main ways that this interacts with your staff. First of all, everyone who creates content, a document, a web page, is a content creator underneath these rules. And so we need to be making sure that we understand how to create digital content and create it in a way that is accessible in its inception. And so we'll get into training, but that does mean that content creation will take longer. It already is, because to go back and make sure that we have all of our alternative text in our images and that the formatting is right and that the reading order makes sense, it takes time to do that. And it is definitely a new skill for almost our whole entire staff. It's a new skill for a lot of people in the community. But I will reassure folks saying that not only is this a state of Colorado rule, but it looks like this is something that is coming down from the federal government as well. So in a way, we have the onus of being first, but we also have the benefit of getting a head start, I suppose. We also have an ADA team is what we're calling it, which is a group of 3 staff members, one from admin, one from rec, and one from IT, which will meet quarterly to stay up to date on the latest in accessibility best practices as we make recommendations for how we can continue to make improvements for digital accessibility. We have already been hosting citywide staff training so that folks can understand the core principles of accessibility, know how to create digitally accessible documents, and we have more scheduled still yet on getting even more into the minutia, particularly for websites and social media. We, of course, would invite council to participate in those, and we'll make those trainings available because y'all are just as much in this bucket with us. And we want to make sure that you guys are equipped to know how we can make things all great for everybody. We also have a monthly staff newsletter that just to keep those skills fresh. It's all about creating that culture, that habit of accessibility. Again, new skills take time to put them into your toolkit, but we're hoping that this ongoing monthly newsletter is an opportunity for folks to be able to practice these skills, get a good handle on them in anticipation of this July 2024 deadline. We are also updating our job descriptions so that includes what training staff will need to take to make sure that they're well prepared to execute digital accessibility, as well as knowing what kind of skills we're needing to bring into the organization. Look at this. The last thing is budgeting for compliance. Not cheap, like so many of the things that we do, but the main parts of budgeting compliance are making sure that we have some dollars set aside for the software that we need to be able to execute this, as well as some professional services. Lastly, some highlights of what's in the plan. It's very brief, so I'm sure you've all read it already, but this plan prioritizes the content and provides paths for folks to be able to access content in an accessible way. So again, we have lots and lots of content and we're going to do our absolute best to make it as good as it possibly can, but we also have years and years of data that, we're wanting to make sure that we are able to provide that equal access to services by having that pathway to request it. So generally, though, we have identified that the priority for updating documents and content remediation is, first of all, business critical content, the stuff that you need to sort of do business with the city. And we've made some really great progress on a lot of our documents, including some of our permits, municipal court information, things like that. Next up would be high community interest content, information, special events. And then all the other stuff is remediation by request. So there in our accessibility policy, it has my phone number, it has email, it has a form.
People can come into City Hall if they have a need. Many ways for people to request content in the format that works best for them. And then lastly, for new content, creating it and publishing it in a way that is as accessible. And if folks need help as they navigate this process, they can come to myself for that guidance. And so we've already been operating by this plan in many ways. We've been working hard on this for the last several months, but we're here before you to ask to formally adopt this. And I turn it back to council for questions and comments.
Any questions? Councilor Schechter.
That me?
Mhm.
I just have a quick question. Actually, it'd be of Steve and you. Does this, looks like we need at least one new FTE, or we have to fund some kind of fellowship for eternal interns from IT departments at universities? What the impact is huge. What are we gonna do?
That, Councilor Schechter, is an excellent point. We're not super happy with this. This is an unfunded mandate that drops kind of out of the sky, and it's a lot of work. I will tell you that I deal with a lot of other people and organizations like this. Nobody is going to be perfectly compliant with this. I would say that Bree and Sarah have got us way out ahead of the curve. So far so good, but we may need to appropriate some dollars to, get a little bit of help. We'll survive it.
So I will.
Survival and thrive. I hope I'm not burning everybody out. Thank you.
And I will say that while it is cumbersome and hard to adapt, the goal and the intent behind it is so admirable. I mean, to be a community member and not be able to understand the information that's being disseminated, you don't feel as much part of the community. So I'm not discounting what you said. I recognize there can be two truths. It's hard to apply and also very valuable. So
I agree. And just to clarify, I just wish they would have done this over 3 years.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
you're absolutely
That's
right.
fair. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Counselor?
No, actually, if there's an action needed, I'd like to move to adopt the digital accessibility plan for the city of Glenwood Springs as presented.
And I'll look for a second. Actually, Counselor Zelinski lit up before you. I will second. Okay. All those in favor of adopting this accessibility plan? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and Sarah, so much for all your hard work. We appreciate you. Yeah. Okay. We will now move on to item number 17, which is the acquisition of a property on South Grand Avenue and a property on Lake Avenue.
I can kind of tee this one up for us. I think Wendell Smith is the broker on this property, and if we could just promote him to panelist. We were made aware that the trailer park down kind of by the 27th Street Bridge is for sale. So I called the broker and had a conversation about it. He was super helpful in helping me understand, what the situation was. And we thought that we should bring it to you guys. There's nothing that we need to do tonight. By law, there's a right of first refusal that doesn't expire into January. We wanted to put this on your radar. And if Mr. Smith is on, I might just turn it over to him. He'll do a better job of a quick summary than I would.
Maybe he's on panelist now.
There he is.
Hello, thanks for the invite. I'm Wendell Smith with HomeSmart Realty Partners. We're looking at selling the mobile home park up there, Roaring Fork Mobile Homes. We're asking 2.5 million. I had a conversation with Mr. Boyd, and I'll open it up for questions. It is affordable housing. $600 a month for each of the units, spaces. There are 12 spaces. We think there's about 54 residents that are living there now. There are 2 apartments on the property too. They run for the rents run $1,500 a month and $1,100 a month. And like I said, we're offering we're asking 2.5 million. When you do the cap rate on that, or the return on investment, it comes out to about 2.4%. If the buyer stays with the property as it exists, keeps the tenants and the same rents and so forth. So that's not a big return. That's where the problem comes in. Anybody that buys it is gonna have to up the rents. I had a buyer call me the other day and he said, well, why wouldn't I just buy a T-bill? You know, they're at 4.18, while we're at 2.4, which is about $60,000 a year net to the owner, whoever buys it. It has, I know in Grand Junction here, we have 2,200 people on the affordable housing waiting list right now. And there's definitely a shortage of that type of housing for workforce employees, so forth. So, do you have any questions on it?
I'm going to bring it back to council. We'll start with Councilor Godus.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that cap rate's kind of meager. But what's the size of the lot?
The size of the lots are
No, the entire property. Excuse me.
the entire property is 3.5 acres.
And how are utilities?
The utilities are being paid by the owner of the park currently. They run about $1,300 a month for water and sewer. And then there's individual meters for power on each one of the units. The units don't come with the property. So the people living there are the owners of the actual mobile home.
So it's 2.5 for 3.5 acres of just the dirt.
Yes.
Thank you. Do the apartments come with this?
Yes, the apartments come with it.
And how many bedrooms are the apartments?
2 bedroom, 2 baths.
What year were they built?
The park's been there since, the park's been there since 1960s, and the units were built in the 80s.
What kind of condition are, if you can make a generalization, what kind of conditions are both the units, I'll call them apartment units,
right,
if that's appropriate. And then, I mean, I drive by it every day, and it's hard to make a judgment on the condition of those trailers. But what are the average age of the trailers that are in there?
The average age, most of them are post 74. That's where you'd run into a problem with financing a mobile home that's pre 74 because of the wiring schematics, the fire danger. So most of them are, I don't know, in the 80s and 90s, but they don't come with the property.
Right.
So when I've had people ask, hey, can we go look at these mobile homes? No. I mean, there's no sense in looking at them because they do not come. There's 4 of them that are that are non-owner occupied. So there's 4 owners that don't live there and they're renting out their units.
And what's lot rent right now? 600. Sorry, thanks. I missed that.
Oh,
Okay,
each one of the spaces?
Yeah.
600 a month.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. So it runs about $115,000 a year gross. And after expenses and utilities and taxes, your net is about 60,000 as it sits.
12 lots. 12. Okay. Councilor Kelp.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Sure.
Is, you mentioned 54 residents, so that's total number of people.
Right.
How many lots is it? Did I miss that?
12.
12 units.
Yeah.
Right.
And are the apartments stick built? Or are they modular units?
They're stick built.
Okay. And then, do you have any idea of the renters right now? Are they hoping to stay on their?
Oh,
property?
yes. Yeah.
I know that the land is not owned. They're just leasing the land to the units, but.
Right. Yeah, they very much want to stay. I mean, the vacancy rate on this property is zero.
Right.
Because where are you going to move? I mean,
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Weimer.
Wendell, hey, I'm curious about whether you've approached the residents, if they're interested in buying out the land, or if you think they will be approached, or if that's sort of,
Yeah, great question.
a
Yeah.
moot point.
Yeah, we've notified all of the residents by law in Spanish and English that the property's for sale, and they have an 120-day first right of refusal on the property.
Right.
So if they come up with the money, sure, yeah.
And what's the timeline on that, by the way?
How much time is left?
Yes,
Yeah, that expires on January 15th.
their 120 days expires on 15th
On
of January.
January 15th, yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, Counselor Zelinski.
Could I ask how you came up with that valuation?
Oh, which valuation?
The $2.5 million?
Okay, the $2.5 million was the 5 owners of the park came up with that. That is not my valuation.
Got it.
I did the valuation for the cap rate. I explained, to them, I see the gentleman's point that called me and said, well, why wouldn't I just buy a treasury note? You don't have to do any work and you get 4.18.
Yeah.
As
okay.
opposed to doing all this work and getting 2.40 on your money.
Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Godus.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate your forthrightness. Have you had any interest or been contacted by, I think they're called Thistle Home Communities, or any groups that, or I guess, tenant advocacy groups at all?
Yes. There's 3 brokers working on this. One of them did get approached by a group last week, and they're trying to come up with the funds to purchase it.
Do you know what that group is?
No, I do not. I can check with her and get back to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be interesting for us to know.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Counselor Jones. Okay. So double checking, this is a question for staff, but you might also know. Currently, the zoning per the City of Glenwood Springs zoning map is C3, correct? It's a commercial zone district, but just historical usage is residential. Is that correct? So in the event that this sold, it could be used, it could be reused as a commercial use.
Yeah, it could be anything that at that commercial level, it could be anything else. Active commercial.
Okay, so currently being listed for the 2.5, it's been on the market about 3 weeks, is that right?
No, it's closer to 3 months.
Oh, great, thank you. So it's been in the Glenwood area MLS for about 3 weeks, but it's been listed actively for 3 months. And during that time, you've not had any written offers presented?
No written offers presented.
Okay, and you've had a few people who've expressed an interest, but you've not yet, but maybe financing this, that, the other?
Yeah, financing. See, the banks would have a hard time with that type of return on investment.
Yeah. And
so what I've approached, there's one gentleman that wants to live there. I'll just tell you, one of the deals that I'm working on. He could come up with the 1.5, but, leaves them $1 million short. So he asked us, the 5 people, and it's hard to get 5 people to agree on something. If they would take 6% interest on a 20-year note for the remainder of the balance, which is a good deal for them. So they're looking at that right now.
Okay.
But I'd rather sell it to the city of Glenwood Springs. Okay.
And the average home age, what are the rules within the park? Can a lot of parks get homes that are the trailers that are a certain age have to be removed or anything do you have any regulations regarding that?
Right. There's nothing there.
Okay. So quite a few of these homes probably are pre-1978 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
There's pre-74 is what you got to look out for, but they're not, there's no restrictions. There's no HOAs. It's just inexpensive rent.
And do you know if any work has been done, have any sewer lines, water lines, any basic infrastructure that feeds these trailers? Has any of that been replaced or redone in the last 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, I've looked at the handwritten financials of what the owners put together. And just about every month they're doing service work on the sewage, on tree trimming, a lot of rotor-rooter stuff. But as far as actual going down, digging up, and replacing pipes, that hasn't been done in a while.
Okay, that's great. Do you guys have a survey on file?
I have not seen one. I can check on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Counselor Godus.
Yeah, I think just to move this along, I would be.
Yeah, he doesn't need to ask a question. I'm fine with comments.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I just think my personal opinion is that if it was not overvalued, there would have been more significant interest. We don't have 2.5 million. However, sir, Mr. Smith, I'm very interested to hear about when you find that information about the group that's working with the homeowners. I think that's more of an opportunity to come alongside that group. And if that group wants to get together with other community partners, as community foundations, whatever, to close a potential funding gap. That's how these deals are done a lot. And we want to be a partner with that. I mean, it sounds like we got some sewage problems. Sounds like we got some things that maybe the city could help with some fee waivers. That I see as more of our role at this point of the juncture with the price that's being asked.
Yeah. Counselor Schechter.
Well, since we're commenting and not negotiating by any means, I would take a little different. I think there's a ton of due diligence to be done. There's probably a lot of heavy duty infrastructure work to be done. Maybe not immediately, but I also feel we almost have if not a moral, a mission-driven impetus to be fairly aggressive about acquiring this, because the opportunities will not come up very often. We have rare opportunities to preserve workforce housing, assuming the demographics, which we don't know. We would have to verify that. I would disagree that I think we do have the money, even if it's only temporary. I think it's legitimate, even though 2C is still forming its mission, and we're supposed to get recommendations from them. There's nothing in the ordinance that says we can't go to them and say, make this a priority. And I believe if we had to, we could dip into city funds to make this happen. If after due diligence, we found it was preservable, it had the right demographics, but we will get very few opportunities to do this. In terms of pricing, we won't negotiate now, but I'm looking, my real rough math is they're asking about 178,000 per unit ballpark. 3 Mile was about 115,000 per unit. So there may be wiggle room, and there may, as far as I understand from Hannah and others, this is too small for Thistle. That doesn't mean it can't be converted just as Manaus has done down the road into resident occupied community. So I'm not saying we can buy it or should right now, but I'm saying before time runs out, I personally would hope we would move this up to a high priority for due diligence and exploring the feasibility of either outright buying it, partnership buying it, to at least at some point preserve it with the idea of converting it later if we need to. That's my
Yeah.
feeling.
Thank you. Counselor Zelinski.
So I agree with you on so many of those points. I'm stuck a little on the price of it. I feel like, you know, you never want to show your hand. And I feel like I don't want to come off as enthusiastic, like we got to do this, because I feel like that price is not in line with what's reasonable. So, you know, I'm with you to a point, but to that point, I feel like it would have to be much more of a partnership. And I really like the idea of it resident occupied. I don't know that we're being good stewards of our city by becoming, you know, landlords of something like this. I don't think that that's our role. But, you know, bridging the gap, facilitating it, I would need to get a much more clear understanding of what would be a reasonable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
outright buy it at market.
Yeah. I just, yeah.
Go to our due diligence aggressive.
Yeah, because I love the idea of preserving workforce housing, but we're not creating anything here. We're just preserving it for existing residents, which is very important and very valuable. And, you know, to be perfectly fair to the people that are living there, yeah, these mobile homes don't come with it. They're not going anywhere. They're not movable. These people can't find a piece of property and take their home with them. So, you know, they don't have a lot of options. Like their first right expires in 5 weeks, but they don't have any other options.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it's very, very sticky position.
Counselor, I'm gonna okay, great. Thanks, Counselor Kaup.
Oh,
You're up.
I'll just comment also that I think this is completely in line with what we've talked about with the 2C funds. We don't have that kind of money in that fund yet. But I do think there's extra due diligence to be done. I'm trying to visualize 3.5 acres with 12 sites on it, or 14 even. And I'm just trying to visualize that density without seeing the site plan. So I think there's more due diligence to do there, to look at it, be in touch with the community. And I guess I'm wondering if next steps is to ask for our team to work and negotiate on this and see where it goes, or what are the next steps?
I'm gonna jump in quickly unless one of you guys, okay. I would like to explore options regarding this. I do think that the current price is, it would be not in our best interest nor responsible of us to pay what this current asking price is, because I think that it's, you know, for the cap rate and for what it is. And yet I also would hate to displace 14 households in our area without a guarantee. I would love it if the property owners would work with us. And once that right of first refusal runs out, if they were to receive another offer, give us an opportunity before they sell it to someone else to potentially retain these people within their homes. I also know that 2C money is meant for people who work in city limits. And we do not know anything about the demographics of the people who live in these homes. So I tread a little cautiously, because I do believe that this was the intent and the goal of 2C money. And yet I want to have some confirmation that some of these people are city employees and that they don't just all get in a car and drive to another municipality on a daily basis. But their kids probably go to our schools, and they likely attend, you know, community functions and associations and organizations here in they're community members. I would need to see so much more due diligence. I would need to have a better understanding of, I'm looking at it on Garfield County Assessors. It looks more like a 1.1 acre parcel, not 3,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm missing something and maybe there's more than one parcel just under different names. So I would need to see, I would also love to see some comps to support, maybe not Wendell, which I can appreciate, having a seller set their own price. I've been there myself. But I would like to see some comps that support their purchase price, and kind of ascertain like how they got there and why they think the value is there, certainly with that cap rate. So those are my thoughts. Counselor Sector.
Well, I'd like to reiterate a couple of things. I think demographics are important. I don't think there's a 2C mandate that 100% have to be workforce, because preserving kind of overlaps that. And I'm not an appraiser, but as I mentioned, my seat of the pants shows a considerable gap if you compare 3 Mile to this. What I would like to see, because I would hate to see us lose it without an opportunity to obtain it. So I don't know, I would like to see us agree to put the burden on staff and our attorney to proceed as fast as possible to preserve a timeline to have a chat with 2C Commission to look at due diligence issues that have already been raised and come back to us, if possible, in January or as soon thereafter and say, hey, here's what we found out. Here's what we think is a reasonable approach to this and a way to acquire it. That's what I'd like to do at this point. Huh? Yeah, whatever. I'd look at all the options, including the due diligence part and the 2C part, and see what we can, if there's a reasonable position that makes sense for the city.
Counselor Jim.
Thank you. So I'm gonna be the downer. I personally think we're wasting our time. The environment we're in, the prices we have seen, the purchases that have been made, this property is not moving. The price is not coming down. It's been listed for 3 months. They have not adjusted once. I follow you guys' lead, no problem, whatever you guys want to do, but personally, I think we're wasting our time and I'd love to explore other opportunities instead. Love to explore other opportunities instead.
That's fine. Counselor Godus.
I think it's what can we do at 2.5 million? And I think it's not going to be 2.5 million. It's going to be more like 3.5 because we will have to make significant infrastructure improvements. But let's just say, for the argument's sake, we don't have to put a dime into it, and it's turnkey, and all the systems are fantastic. Assuming that if we took a check for 2.5 million to the developers of VLD and said, give us X amount of affordable housing, let us buy down affordable housing, would we be able with 2.5 million to get 3 times as many units as that? Possibly. Now we don't get the home ownership component of that. Possibly. Maybe we get 1 building for that. I don't know. But I also think we've done some things, some creative, unique things legislatively when we have the 8, where's Hannah to correct me, the 8 options, the 8 different things, one being the 35%. And so if this, regardless of whether it's 1 acre or 3 acres, if somebody wants to buy this, scrape it, and then put up 30 condos, or let's say specifically 36 condos, yeah, that kind of sucks. I don't like that. But because of the way we have things structured, it would be incredibly difficult not to have 35% of those as deed restricted units. So we, without spending any money, potentially would get a developer to have 12 units of affordable housing anyway. And so I guess I will just, just to be clear, because I think we could go back and forth, I'll make a motion that that echoes my earlier comments, that we not move on this, and that we aggressively pursue information of the home ownership group that wants to help these folks own their own, and look for ways to come alongside them and help that process as an assist from the city versus being a player to do it.
Counselor Schechter, you're up if you want to make a
We made a
second.
motion.
Yeah,
No,
no.
I'm not gonna second.
Okay, okay. Any second?
Okay, I'll clear up my motion. My motion is to not pursue purchase or due diligence, but to pursue a partnership opportunity with a potential future buyer.
I would second.
I am going to jump in really briefly and say that we did some calculations a couple months ago on a different property, and we came to about $1 million per acre of value. Like that is what in Glenwood right now, 1 acre of commercial property equates to about $1 million. So this, with the properties on it, does seem grossly overpriced. So while I hear yours, I think that another method, and maybe we could incorporate this, is to somehow come up with a fair offer price. If you guys want to move forward with 2C money, we say, you know what, we will give you $1 million or whatever. And that would be something that I think staff could come back with a recommendation and we could pursue it that way too. I don't know if I hear two different things between you guys. And yet I see value to both of them. I see that, you know, if someone else is willing to be there and push this forward, we do have 2C money for a reason. And yet I also see that your passion behind this and that you don't want to potentially have right around the holidays, like 14 homes and households lose their home. So we have a motion, we have a second. Who else would like to, yeah, go ahead, Sumner.
Well, again, I won't vote for the motion because I think it is too narrow.
Okay.
I don't think we should preclude any option. And if we charge staff, as I was talking about, and we get a time to make a motion, it would include what this motion also includes. It would include pursuing a partnership, would include using part of 2C, would be using part of other reserves. And I don't know the price. I mean, my little calculation, I'm not going to negotiate, was hundreds of thousands of dollars less than the offering. I don't believe it's a waste of a time until we get an offer turned down or we've exhausted it. And I'm also concerned about the displacement, which we saw happen in Basalt. We've seen it happen in Carbondale. It goes against our grain. And when I do the math, Jonathan, first of all, I don't want 36 high-end condos there right now, not if it means displacing that many people, which it will. And there's no guarantee it'll be 35%, 20 is all it would be in terms of inclusionary under our code right now. So I would hate to see us preclude the option, which I believe this motion does. I would rather see the motion folded in to a broader charge to staff to go pursue every option you can and come back to us with there is no option, or here's a range of options with an unknown partner or a renegotiated price that will make an offer. That's what I would much rather see. And I think that's a more responsible approach.
Okay, so my inclination, just for the sake of time, is to allow the original motion maker to either one, withdraw it for his, or to call your question with the motion as it stands.
Let's call the question.
Okay, great.
No,
He doesn't want to modify.
Yeah.
Okay. No, okay. So.
We're waiting on one.
Okay.
Yes, Counselor Zelinski. No, Mayor Wusso. Yes, Counselor Godis. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Dame. No, Counselor Weimer. No, Counselor Cap. No, Counselor Schechter. It fails 5-4-3.
Yeah. Flash.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, great. So with that in mind, I will, yep, exactly. That's what I was hoping. Oh, hold on one second. Counselor Okay, so let's do this. It sounds like Counselor Schachter wants to make a second motion or a new motion. I'm gonna have Counselor Zelinski and then Counselor Kaup, and then we'll go to that, okay? Go ahead. Whoops, we did that backwards. Counselor Zelinski.
I'm sorry, I just have. Are we having this conversation, like, did Mr. Smith reach out to us or did we reach out to him? Why are we?
It really is because it came to our attention. A couple of council members pointed it out that it was out there. Falls within one of the possibilities for 2C funding. One of the objectives that you've identified in your planning and housing plan. It is unusual and unique that a trailer park would come up for sale. The statute treats it a little bit differently because of the 120-day first right of refusal for residents. So we felt it was important that council have a look at it. It's not that we're advocating staff one way or the other necessarily, but we just felt it was important to bring it in front of you guys.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, so would you put your light back on, please? Thank you. Counselor Kaup.
Getting turned off. I would just like to say, I think it's important that we give direction tonight, but we have a board, 2C board, who is charged with giving us recommendations. So I would like to have included as part of your motion is that we task this with staff and the 2C board to do the due diligence and come up with a recommendation to us for
Okay,
how
with-
it fits their funding.
So with that, I will turn the mic over to Counselor Schachter.
All right.
Go ahead and make.
I will
your
make a motion. I will say though, being liaison for 2C, they are not ready. They are not internally ready to on their own bring this to us. Therefore, I think we need to be a little more proactive. So my motion will be that we ask staff to, in conjunction with 2C Commission, to explore the due diligence for acquiring this trailer park, including infrastructure, liabilities, financing possibilities, partnership possibilities, and come to us with a recommendation to either make an offer at a certain amount, a reasonable amount, or say, hey, we can't find a pathway forward. That would be my motion. And to do it in as timely a fashion as you can to meet whatever obligations we can. I don't know what that will be.
Counselor Kaup.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a first, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion before we call the question? Counselor Zelinski.
Steve Boyd
Oh,
wants to say
I
something.
I was just gonna ask Councilor Schachter, do you happen to know off the top of your head when the next 2C meeting is?
No,
That's okay.
I don't off the top of my head. Yeah, sorry.
Um,
Not soon enough.
Counselor Zelinski.
So, yeah, I actually, because I'm super torn. That's why I was like the last one to vote, because I'm really, really struggling. It's a lot to ask of staff to go to possibly a black hole of non-information. And so, but I can't sit well with knowing that, we're gonna displace 14 families that have lived there for years. I have a friend that lives there and she has raised her family there. Like this is so, and she does work in Glenwood Springs, she's a member of the community, she and her family, her husband. And so it's a real hard one for me. And so I actually asked for some guidance from staff before I vote on how much of a burden are we putting on you right now by asking this of you at the end of the year.
And
Well-
the board meets next Tuesday.
So I appreciate you asking me. Thank you. I think it's not unreasonable for staff to get together, check in with 2C next week on Tuesday, and then come back in the first meeting in January with some update.
Okay,
We can do that.
all right, I appreciate that.
And I will be missing the first meeting in January, so my preference is that we do not take any official action at that meeting, only knowing that this was a pretty divided. If there's a decision to be made, let's move it to the second meeting.
We can do a special meeting because that's after.
Depending how compelling it
Yeah.
is, depending on their
Okay.
recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's call it.
On the first or second? Oh, me too. We might consider rescheduling it if there's a bunch of us missing.
Yeah.
Counselor Gotis.
I think it's great. I'm just not too worried about the right of first refusal expiring
Me either.
because this has not generated any interest in 3 months. There's been no written offer. So I don't think that there's I don't think we should set our hair on fire to try to meet a deadline that has not proven to be critical. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would let staff decide whether to light that fire.
No, and I'm saying is we have 2 members
right.
that are not here. So I
Yeah.
think if we have address it on the second meeting, it also gives staff a little bit of time, especially over the Christmas holiday, a little bit more leeway.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call for the question. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, Counselor Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Wusso. No, Counselor Gotis. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Dame. Yes, Counselor Weimer. Yes, Counselor Kaup. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 6-1.
We will now move on to the second item. Wendell Smith, thank you so much.
Yes.
We appreciate your time, your resources, and your knowledge about this property. Thanks so
All
much.
right, thank you. I appreciate the invite, and I'll get back to Mr. Boyd with that organization that's interested.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Yeah, stay
thank
in
you.
touch. Okay,
All right,
take
bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye. Yeah, I was like, wow, let's go on the next one. It's 9:15. Okay, so now we are moving on to the second item of the item 17. And it's the discussion of the acquisition of a property on Blake Avenue.
Thank you. I think Counselor Schachter was gonna kick this one off. That's okay.
So this is a combination. On my.
Counselor
Hey,
Schachter.
open up. This is a combination of some background information and permissions, okay? So the technical address, I don't even remember, but I think most of you are hopefully aware of the Smith property that is across the street from City Market and across on Blake, the old horse path, where all the horses were and Bud Smith for ages, all right? This property will come up for sale. And the mayor and I and Carl have had initial talks. I've talked to with the owner of part of the property. Understand the property's in the state. It's split between 2 parts of the family. Maylin Smith, who is Marion's daughter, who I have a relationship. I taught her in junior high school, but she has been very open to talking, and her cousin controls the other family piece. So the issue will be, and I'm just going to speak personally, I can't think of a more desirable infill piece of property in our entire city, and I would hate to see it turned into a gas station or something else. We have an opportunity again, there's affordability issues, to enter negotiations. So the family's goals right now, and we don't have to deal with it totally, is the lower property, which is, I think, about what is it, 1.04 or 1.45 acres. That does not include the house on Grand Avenue, but everything else coming up to Grand, where Nellie Duffy's house, the remains of it remain. That's one piece that'll be controlled by part of the family that wants to sell for as much money as they can get. Okay, that's going to be a market property. They've already been approached, I believe, by a fairly large corporation. All right, but there's nothing on the table yet. The upper property is controlled by Marion's family and Maylin, and there the desires are a little different. There the desires are a little more amenable to the city owning it. We'd like it to serve more as open space or community gardens. We want to put a statue up of a horse in memory of our grandfather. It doesn't preclude perhaps some, and if there's any housing at all, it would be a little more minimal, but they are very open to workforce housing for the city, things like that. So that's just a rough background without talking, and there are appraisals out there. I don't think we have to talk about them at this point. What I would like council to approve is a continuation of negotiations. I can be the point person with the family, but involve Carl and staff to continue this dialogue at whatever rate is necessary to ultimately decide if we can make an offer on either or both parcels. That's where we are.
I think I was able, I'm going to jump in only because I think you did a really great synopsis. I just wanted to add a couple of things, and that is that this is a legacy project. This is a family that has lived here and wants to see a piece of land be memorialized so that it can be, for future generations, can walk past and see, you know, if not real horses in the field, then a statue or sculptures of horses. In addition, if there is any housing that would ever, you know, come to fruition.
Lower parcel would be more.
It would be lower parcel, and it would also be ideally be affordable housing and also senior housing.
Yep.
So that, you know, people can live in a place that is clean and fresh and single level and makes it so that the quality of life is.
There is a
high.
twist. I'm sorry, may I?
Yeah,
I may-
of course.
And it's not a huge twist. I think it can be worked out easily. The upper parcel will, at least it currently, need to be negotiated as a lease purchase for family reasons. But that's, again, with your permission, we'll go forward.
Yep. So, okay. I would bring it back to council for questions. Or a motion.
I'll do a motion.
Okay.
I would just move that we direct staff and our attorney and Counselor Schechter to continue to have discussions and negotiations with family regarding the property and future opportunities.
Counselor.
I would second that.
Any comments before we call for the question? Counselor.
Just real quick, I'm much more excited over this one.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, I'm gonna add one, and that is that when a family comes to you and says, I don't want this to be overly developed. I don't want this to become high rise. We know what we have. We've been contacted by developers for decades. We want to be in control of this. I think it's really important to honor that, and if we can help support them in meeting that goal, making sure that it doesn't just get sold where somebody could maximize density and sell it to, you know, second homeowners. I think that's part of the conversation we're having at the city level right now of what people want in their community. And the change is inevitable. It's not like we can't control this piece of private property. This piece of private property is held by a family that they don't want to just, they're going to sell it. And so this is why we have started some of this. This is why the community passed 2C. And I think we can support them in meeting that goal. I'd like to at least keep the conversation open. Call the question.
Yes, Counselor Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Wusso. No, Counselor Godus. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Dame. Yes, Counselor Weimer. Yes, Counselor Kaup. Yes, Counselor Schechter. It passes 6-1.
Thank you so much for the energy you put into it and also for creating good relationships in the community that they felt comfortable reaching out to you.
Thank
We appreciate you.
As a comment, I would also give credit.
Mike.
Oh,
Mike.
Sorry. Hey, Mike.
Mike.
Credit is also due to a former counselor of ours, Martha Cochran.
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
Helped me
Facilitated.
make that connection with
Yeah.
the family, big time. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Martha. She's probably out there listening. Hopefully she is. Okay, great. We are gonna go ahead then and move on to council comments. We at the very beginning of the meeting, we skipped item 18 or we postponed a update on it. So we are on item number 19, council comments. Any comments this evening? Surprise.
But I'll make it shorter than you think.
Okay, good, good. Okay, there you go.
Well, my,
Oh,
or no?
you're up.
Okay, so, a couple things on the easy route. I just want to comment that unsolicited, I think I told Matt, I had two women from Glenwood come up to me praising pay as you throw, totally unsolicited. A third one called me back because Louisa has done such a great job. Said, oh, she got it solved. The burden has been huge. I'd also like to commend our staff for the Sunday snow clearance that happened so quickly and so fast, particularly on my thoroughfare, the main thoroughfare in town, other than the other two. So those are just some praises.
Yeah.
But the longer one, and I'm not going to ask for action tonight, but I have threatened you, and I'm bringing that threat to fruition. I sent you comments. There are 3 proposals I'd like council to act on or shoot me down by the end of January. One is, and you have it, so we don't have to go, is the short-term rental reduction and the reasons for it. I sent that to you. The second one, which I believe is extremely important, and Hannah has had no objection to this. I think one of the things we can do, particularly when we talked about building types, to whatever extent we can legally do it for new construction, to broadly expand RO as a major consideration and factor.
Resident occupied.
Resident
RO.
occupied, we may need to tweak our criteria, but we have, I think, 6 of them right now. I think that goes a long way for taking care of us, avoiding some of the out of area resident investors that we want. It puts some pressure to create housing for us. And the third one was a little, it may be early, but a little tweak to our overlay. And I think Mr. Grosscup actually made a good point that, and I detailed, says, look, if I have a non-conforming use, and it's not a change of ownership and not a change of the use, can I remodel and even expand that square footage as long as it's not a turnover of ownership and use? 3 things to consider. I've sent them to you. What I'd appreciate is shoot me down, send stuff, but that's somewhere in our January agenda, maybe by the end of the week, squeeze it in and take action unless it's off the table totally. Thank you.
Counselor Kelp.
I will also sing the praises of pay as you throw. I had a comment from another resident in town who said, you know, I was against the program at first. I thought it was big government coming in and putting the small businesses out of business and all that stuff. But she said she absolutely loves it now. They have 3 kids, household downtown. And she said, you know, we just never recycled before. We didn't bother with it. But now that I have that nice new shiny container with the blue lid, I know what can go in it, and I'm washing stuff and recycling and very excited about it. So good job, staff, on that. And then the only other request I have from council, if we can have support on that, we had, I think, what might have been our final TDM or TMA meeting with our consultant last week. And we need to know what next steps are, because that's potentially, it's, you know, when was at the crossroads? I-70 and Highway 82. No one's going to come in and fix this for us if we don't champion the TDM process and hopefully grow it farther reaches of the county. So I'm hoping we can have a work session with that, and just to find out how robust of a program we can do. I know bandwidth on staff has a lot going on. Do we need a consultant? How do we get this done? So I'm just hoping that we could have that possibly on a late January work session or as soon as possible.
Okay. Counselor Godus.
I would support that, Shelley. I believe there was a consultant that helped develop the TDM recommendations.
Yes.
So I guess I would say, you know, by the first meeting of February, let's have a work session where we get that consultant to and invite, maybe have a joint meeting. I love the joint meeting of the DDA today. I thought it was really good. I would say, you know, that group has been working on this, so to have a joint meeting with the Transportation Department, a presentation by the consultant by the first meeting of February, I'd be very supportive of. So if I need to make a formal motion, I will, or is everybody okay with doing that? Head nodish?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Mhm.
So thank you, Shelley, for bringing that up. I also want to sing the praises of Pay As You Throw. I had a stuck picnic basket in a box, and when that arm comes up and it swings it, and it didn't come out. And so of course I just called Matt Langhorst, like, hey man, you know, where do I take this? Like, what can I do? And he's like, I'll send them out. I'm like, no, don't do that, because that feels like a little too heavy handed. He's like, no, they need to be doing this. Like, if something doesn't work. And within 2 hours, they were back out there. And I firmly believe that that is what's happening to anybody that has problems. I know Miss Chase has struggled a bit, but it does get resolved. And so I want to thank staff for sticking to it. This has been huge. It's been a big issue. Not issue, it's been a big undertaking. And I think we're doing a really good job with the hiccups that we knew were going to happen somewhere. I didn't know what the hiccups were going to be, but we knew they were going to happen. Lastly, just a quick update. CAST is working with their housing subcommission on a real estate transfer fee. So if you're familiar, there's about 10 communities, Gypsum being one of them, oddly enough, that has a real estate transfer tax. Aspen's, for example, generates 36 million Tellurides, like 15 million Avons, 8 million. Ours 0, because we're not allowed to have it through Tabor. The legislation that is that we have a sponsor, and we're hoping to get several more sponsors, both in the House and the Senate, on board, is a real estate transfer fee, which, when you talk about fee, because there is a rational nexus between the cost of real estate and lack of housing. All those funds in this proposed legislation would go to affordable housing, and it would only allow communities to implement a fee if they so chose. And how that would work is very much like short-term rentals or other impact fees. You have to have a nexus study. So what does this cost to the community? And then we can put a fee on the transfer of real estate. And it could be a percentage fee, it could be a flat fee, it could be whatever this study resolves, but it is a way to account for the impact of rising real estate fees, and will give us some of that ability that other communities have. So that's still in the process. You know, the session starts first week of January. So until that starts to get some momentum, I won't have a lot of updates, but I wanted to give you guys those updates. I think it could be really significant, especially for communities like Glenwood Springs, where there's hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate transacted. Yeah, maybe 100 million. I don't know. A lot of millions of dollars of real estate transacted every year.
So of course, Pay As You Throw, it's a great program. The problems are front loaded. I think you're working through them. It's clearing up on a daily. And so, you know, it's got to be a big breath of fresh air for you. And so, you know, like everyone has said, I've heard more good than bad, and the bad is getting resolved. So, you know, kudos to y'all and your team. That's excellent. So Mr. Gillespie was in here talking about boards and commissions. He'll be thrilled if he's listening, because I'm going to talk about that. I get to sit in with Parks and Rec, and one of the cool things that just happened is RFOV came out with their annual report, and they named the City of Glenwood Springs as Partner of the Year, which is really awesome. That's I used to be on their board, and I think they're an amazing organization in our whole valley. They do so many good things, and to know that Glenwood is a strong partner makes me really, really proud. Yeah. And so, that's our Parks and Rec department. Also, Historic Society, you know, they came up with the money that we asked them to make. They're also going beyond that, above and beyond that, and exceeding and making great gains into, you know, sustainability and viability. And so I want to commend them. They rejuvenated their board. They're creating a strategic plan with 6 action categories that they are working on. They have an upcoming board retreat where they will begin kind of refining and defining that. And they need board members. So if anybody in the community is interested in historical preservation and, you know, kind of maintaining that asset in our community, I encourage you to seek out a spot in their board. Okay.
Thank you. Just real quick, thanks to everybody. It was great to be part of this team. I think we had a great year. We had a successful year. I call this a successful year. And I'm looking forward to next year. If I may add something that I would like to discuss next year is economic development. It was part of our strategic plan when we talked about it. I know it's only number 3 on the list, but I would love to have a workshop or discussion to see how we want to move forward with specialist, manager, whatever we want to call it, to keep that sales tax coming, because we need to. So happy holidays. Thank you.
I lied, I do it. I forgot to mention, well, Ryan, probably, I would appreciate if any one of you at all would also request that the 3 items that I sent you be part of our agenda at some point in January, whenever Ryan can get them in. Is that?
Well, that's funny because that's what I was gonna have as my, that's what I was gonna have as my council comments, is that I was going to say, let's take them out so that it's not Sumner's night.
Okay.
But let's start with short-term rentals. I think that it's timely. I think we can definitely represent it as long as community development has the time and energy to invest in that. If we could connect with them and see how soon they could do it.
And Hannah has screening.
Okay, so like second meeting or February, look at the schedule and see when you guys can put it in. And then phase the other ones out as needed.
Let him put them on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I heard
Thank
some
you.
additions from you guys. I heard some additions. And then do you have one more thing?
Yeah, I do. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Again, like Marlo, down the road, if I understood our city manager correctly, we've got this accumulating 7.5% tourism fund that's not been spent. I would encourage us to take sometime earlier rather than later next year, take a good look at it in conjunction with the tourism board or not, or with staff, say, hey, there's some ways we can focus it and spend it downtown, should we?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that money, hold on one second. That money is supposed to offset the impact of tourism.
And there are several ways.
Yeah,
you can look at that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that Rod was looking at options for how to spend that. So you can go ahead and
Now
then
I'm
I'll jump back
finished.
in. Okay, go ahead.
Well, just to be the second one to
Okay.
put it on the agenda at some point, I would agree with you and I would love to talk about
Great.
that.
We
Absolutely.
are just adding things to the agenda. Double checking, when we first started this term in April of this, was it this? Yeah, this year. You were all assigned boards and commissions. Please double check that you are part of you're attending those meetings, and let's go ahead and to a past council member, Hooner's recommendation. Let's find a structure that works so that we're regularly getting on there and getting updates to one another. And also double check that you are making it to the meetings that you've been appointed to. If it's not a good fit and you want to see if there's another fellow city councilor who will jump into an appointment, don't be shy to speak up. If there's a time constraint or, you have double scheduled or something. And with that, I had one last thing, and that is that I'll let you mention it, but I think will apply to all of us for social hour as to where we're going. So I'll let you jump in. Oh, did you have one more thing too? Holy smokes, you guys.
Yeah, I just want to jump in on that. I've been in a lot of meetings the last 6 months where I'm the only person from Glenwood Springs, and we sometimes pay we pay money to be part of these groups, and we don't have council representation in these groups, and specifically Northwest Cogs and IMPTR. These are groups that are critical that we be a part of, and in the instance that we do not that we abdicate our role as council members and liaisons, we have to let staff know because it's critical. We have some representation and staff come to those meetings if a council person cannot. And
Repeat which groups?
the two that I'm aware of, and I think there's other, like Club 20, I don't know what our attendance there, AC and G. I don't know what our attendance is on some of these ancillary things. I mean, I'm not worried about Aaron and Parks and Rec. They'll be or alternative liaison for Parks and Rec never shows up. That's me, for full disclosure. But IMTTR, Intermountain Transportation.
That's yours. That's you're appointed to that one. I'm TCR.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to not be.
Okay, great. That's
I have a
good to know.
conflict of interest on that and Northwest COG. Although I do attend on behalf of my other job, and that's my conflict of interest. So if we can't attend these things, we should, one, see if staff can and need to, or two, maybe we don't need to be a part of all of these groups that, you know, as people get interest, we want to be a part of, let's re-examine and go.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for all that. City manager.
Okay, I had three pretty quick things. The first one, I just wanted to be clear that we don't have an opt-out right now in pay-as-you-go. We have, however, looked at what other communities have done. We've got a couple of ideas. You know, we're working on maybe a couple of options, should you guys choose to want to consider this. Second thing is, there's been a group of city managers from Parachute up to about Assault getting together to talk about this sometimes. Most recently yesterday. And I went and sat in, and the very brief update is that they feel like they're at about 125 now. Mostly men. A lot of them are starting to get federal papers so that they can work. They're being taken advantage of in, you know, just kind of lousy ways. When they work and they don't get paid, that kind of stuff. It's kind of a problem. They've been peaceful. There's only been a couple of real issues there. There are about 30 of them in, what is it, the 3rd Street? Is that right? Yeah. What Carbondale wants to do, and they said, we're willing to take the lead. We just don't want to be in the same one. But what they're trying to do is get something together where they can house the ones that newcomers, calling them newcomers. They're going to house the newcomers through March, which is what they think is the dangerous time. A lot of them are living in cars, which is starting to become problematic as soon as there's a lot of snow and stuff. They think that their cost estimate to do that through March was $350,000. And they've put in for a $233,000 DOLA grant. DOLA has said, we'll definitely do something for you, but they don't expect $233,000. We're really not noticing it in other communities yet. I'm aware of a couple that we've seen here, and I think Rifle had said they were aware of a couple, but it's pretty much been contained in Carbondale. I asked Carbondale if there was going to be a specific ask of Glenwood Springs, and they said they didn't think so, at least not at this point. So I think we're okay to just kind of keep, you know, leaning in and following along without really taking a leadership role.
Thank you for that.
And then the last thing, the social event, I was asked to invite council and staff to go to, there's a hockey game tonight. And Grizzly Hockey is at Hotel Colorado doing, you know, silent auction and that kind of stuff. I think they get kicked out at 10. So it might be a little bit late to make it over there, but I wanted to let you know that offer was extended.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, perfect. City attorney.
This one is a little more complicated, and I'm sorry we're doing it 9:45. So, and I may ask Matt to come up to the mic too. We've been working, you guys may remember when we were doing electric rates, we had a little bit of a conversation about the Power Pathway project that Public Service was trying to do on the Front Range. It's this major transmission line. They're trying to impose the costs of that as a utility across all of the state of Colorado. Unfortunately, that has a seriously negative impact on our transmission rates to get the electricity that we buy through Mean to us. Same impact on Town of Center and City of Aspen. Those three communities we've been working together trying to get more information out of Public Service /Excel. We're getting up to the point where we need to file a challenge to that at the PUC. I just wanted to alert you guys to the fact that, you know, as the electric utility, we're going to march forward doing that because we think it's critical to the ratepayers here in Glenwood not to be paying for major infrastructure on the Front Range, which will never help us specifically. And being part of and being charged as that goes along. So anyway, I wanted to give you that heads up. We're coming up on that deadline probably in the next week or so that we do need to file something. we've been sharing, we have a PUC attorney that has been advising us, sharing those costs with those other communities, but I just wanted to alert you guys, because I may hit the paper at some point. But from the standpoint of protecting our ratepayers, we feel it is critical to take this step. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for being proactive and taking action. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Pass it through. This will be a FERC.
Sorry, FERC. I was like word mix when I was
Okay,
like
say-
looking at my notes. So
say it one
FERC
more time.
challenge. What's that?
And what's the status?
So it went through PUC. It's a FERC challenge. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Federal
Yeah.
Energy Regulatory Commission. Sorry. Word soup occasionally.
It happens.
Apologies.
Happens to the best of us. Okay, Counselor Dunn, did you have something?
Yes.
Okay, bringing it back to council. Finish this night with Counselor Dick.
Thank you. Just real quick, in case we do not make it over to the Hotel Colorado, thank you for the invite. This meeting will probably reconvene at Doc Holidays.
Okay, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
And a second. Counselor Kelp, second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes
you all.
unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you all so much for attending this evening.
Thank you so much.